All right, good evening. Let's bring the Acton School Committee budget meeting to order at this time. Welcome everybody, and let's begin with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any adjustments to our agenda? No? Okay, any comments from the public tonight to begin our meeting? Does everyone have an agenda or not? Or just us? It's up here. Here you go.
I don't know what.
We're following the same format at each of our budget meetings, and we're going to just kind of run through those norms.
I don't have my. I'll have to manually.
Okay, just next slide.
Okay, just to remind everybody, if you haven't been here before, these are the norms that the chair will maintain a list to recognize people. We'll decide if something needs to be tabled, if we kind of get hung up on it. Bob and Kim are recording the notes, the minutes as we go along, and along with a revisit list, and assume positive intentions. What that means is that if somebody has something to offer, we are going to assume that it's in the best, with the best intentions, not to be against something, but to be for something. Okay? And now let's go on to number 4. This is our order of items for tonight. We're going to update the budget binders with new sheets.
We can start right there.
We can start right there. Let's do it.
Yep.
So these are all the new.
What do I need for new sheets?
Those are ones, the colored ones.
Did they already get theirs?
I don't have.
I printed mine.
I don't
Yeah.
have any new sheets.
Did you? Thank you.
Because I wanted
You printed the
colors.
color?
Yeah.
You going from tonight? Anybody else want one? Yes, it's the updates.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll get rid of this other bunch then. Get rid of the other bunch.
You guys have one?
Well, you might want to compare.
Oh, I know, but what I'm saying is
I put them in the bag. I kept them.
Yeah, we gotta sort them out here.
Perfect.
And what we're starting with here, if you'll recall, if you were at the last meeting, the superintendent made some proposed changes, some suggestions, and the board discussed it and decided to support him in those suggestions, agreed with those suggestions that they're in the best interest of the school and of our kids, and so that's what we're going to start.
So that's what this is. All the other work you had before did not have these suggested changes that I recommended. This now has those. It also has on it all the R's, or the revisit ones that people had brought up as we went along. So what we're going to do is we're just going to touch on some of the other things. The glossary thing, the board had asked in the past that there be a glossary that becomes part of the future budgeting processes, and I don't have a lot of these. Did you guys get yours already?
Yeah.
Did you get them down?
I got one.
Okay,
You got one.
and basically, some of those real short, what does the FICA stand for? What's the MEPR stand for? Those sorts of things. So next year, just let me know right now, this will be part of the original initial budget packet. Right from the get-go, okay? So,
Oops, that
you
is-
guys,
No, yeah, but
you guys can have
Well, which is,
all the extras.
MSL and Jews. And most do.
Okay? And 4.3, multi-year comparison sheet. It was asked that they, by I think Mary wanted to see multiple years spread out over. Do you have yours?
Yep.
Do you have yours? Do you have yours? Yeah. You have yours? Okay. And this is, and I'll have Kim, you want to talk about this one for a second?
This is basically, I went back and tried to find the history all the way back to FY 10-11. And I actually found the numbers for the budget and then what was actually spent. I had all the numbers for the first 2 years except for the actuals for transportation, so I left it as transportation as it was budgeted. And then down below, you see the revenues that were budgeted and what was received. So in the midsection, what I'm showing is how the increase or decrease in undesignated funds built up from year to year to year. So when you take what you budgeted less what you actually spent, that will go into your undesignated. And then when your revenues, you budget a certain amount of revenues, if you get more or less, that will also affect your undesignated fund balance. So by doing it going from FY 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, and on the back is 13, 14, 14, 15, you add up the years to years, it adds up to over $900,000. So that undesignated fund balance has been building over 5 years. So that
This is the justification why I built.
Right.
And,
The only thing that's missing really is on the back page, on the last column, it says as is. You want to state what that really reflects? That isn't
the budget as is was the original budget that we first presented, not the one that the superintendent is proposing tonight. So that didn't have any adjustments for a retired teacher or a teacher that was not replaced or
positions
you know,
added, etc.
other things like that. Everything that's on the back of the proposal.
So hopefully by the end of the night, you will see a bottom line with a bottom percent, bottom change or whatever, if we get to it all. And I think we will get to it all. And I guess we're on to the next one, which is the instruction coach job description. Now, you want to talk about that in a second?
Yes. The copy that you have says instructional coach / assistant principal. The / assistant principal part is in there. It's a very minor part of this position. It's probably 10% of the entire position, which would mean that it would be, this instructional coach would have the ability to cover for the principal if she's not here, would have the authority to do disciplinary things if the principal weren't available, would be able to do teacher evaluations along with the principal. So it's kind of when you look at it with a slash, it looks like it would say half and half, but it's really more 90-10. That's the way the board intends for it to be, is 90-10. And if you look down through the part, especially onto what the instructional coach is going to be doing the first year, you'll see she'll probably, whoever it is, will probably find it difficult to do much more than what's on that page.
Oh, there'll be more added to that page. We were just talking about it, weren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was, I just want to be transparent that we didn't just change the name for the sake of making it look like it was an administrative position, because it's more instructional coach. Shared special ed job description draft. Do you have the copies of that? Or probably not. Yeah.
I just don't believe
That's fine. No, I actually have it.
Okay.
Job description, we just have that page, right?
And one's with
I
the
didn't get a,
I don't think there was a job description.
was there on those pages, was there a job description? On the 7 pages that you sent us?
For special ed.
All I had was I didn't get that. All I got was the division of cost between SAD 57 and
Yeah,
us.
there should have been a second. Yeah, it one was too,
on
but
there.
It's
Was it?
that one. It was there.
Okay,
Sorry,
this is
I missed
a
it.
draft description of the superintendent and RSU 57 and myself and the special ed director we had drafted up. What the intent and plan of the position would be, they would station this person in the I guess you call it the west half of the district, Alfred and Shapley. schools and here, and they also have some kids that attend Maplestone down the road, and they have a bunch of kids over in New Hampshire attending, about a dozen kids, I don't know exactly what. But they would be here 2 days a week, and 3 days a week they'd be doing the other. And obviously, there would be some fluctuation there. Occasionally, they have to be here on a Monday, not there. So that's roughly the job description. We would have some slight tweaks to what's done here. The 504 piece may not be that person. It may be that person, but the 50 coordinator may not.
I was just testing your link to see if it
Okay, so anybody have any questions on that one? Okay, next one, 4.6, pre-K program, planning and update on information. First of all, pre-K, what is a pre-K program? It's a program for kids that are under age 5, primarily age 4. I'm going to just mention a few of the bigger benefits to it, potentially in long-term savings to the district in terms of costs, but more importantly, the benefits to kids. Pre-K program, I'll address on the cost point of view first. Any related services, special needs related service testing, even Joy could pipe in on this. If a kid needs hearing aids, that sort of thing, if they're under age 5, the state through this Child Development Service picks up the whole tab. Instead of if they're in school, the 5th grade, we have to start picking up some of that tab. So there's a potential savings by having those kids identified earlier and their needs met. And then you add to that, what if the kid can hear at age 4 instead of waiting until age 5, for example? Are they going to have a better chance of being more successful in school by having an extra year hearing or whatever? Or services, therapy, whatever it may be. So that's the bigger thing, identifying the kids right from the get-go. Currently, they don't get identified, would you say, till the middle of first kindergarten year, maybe end of the kindergarten year?
First and second grade.
So having that 1 year sooner, we may have less need for special needs services further on up the road, and or let's just say they do better in school in general. Then there is the, no, I guess that's good enough. So back, I don't know how long ago, I did some digging around with the state on this, and before anybody actually knew what I was doing, I wanted to see what it would potentially be for this district. The big thing is the state does not cover any of the costs related to pre-K the initial year. The school district has to do that. But after that first year, those kids all start counting in your subsidy formula. So we will receive back, well, if we had the same allocation we currently have, we'd receive back for every kid in pre-K an extra $1,100, $1,200. Next year, that's going to jump to about $2,200 per kid. So there, and we already know there's roughly, well, I've heard there's been some additions. So now it's Tricia's turn to talk about where we're at in this process.
Last Thursday, there were about a dozen of us that met here for an hour and a half talking about what we envision preschool to be. I had some of the primary school teachers here, Title I, we had parents, we had community members who were preschool teachers out and about in the community. And then we actually had Jan, who came from Marshwood District, who started the first preschool, was one of the first teachers there 40 years ago. So we had this wide range of people that cared about this program happening here at school, at Acton School. So we talked about things like, should it be all day or half day? And most of the group there agreed that the all day is the way to go, but we should discuss a half day option. If parents wanted to come halfway through the day and take their child home, what would it look like? We discussed things like how it coordinates or is similar to or different from Head Start. You know, people from CDS and what they could offer. Looking at curriculum. We discussed the BAM program that got us started thinking here in this school. Was offered 1 day a week last year, 2 days this year. And we do not, at the table, we did not feel it was an either or. That BAM still has a purpose in our community. The pre-K that we're talking about is really a 4-year-old program. And our BAM services all ages prior to kindergarten. We also looked at how do we get people involved. Talked about looking at a survey, but we've also decided that on March 19th we're going to meet here as a group, and we're going to divide and conquer some of the paperwork, but also we're going to do a phone tree conversation with parents that are on that list. Right now, we have about 20 kids that we know of that are at the age group that would be eligible for this pre-K next year, for this 4th grade. And so we would call and ask them, you know, what do they see the needs are? Would they be interested? You know, kind of get a feel from the people we're talking about being our future clients. The group really was just so energetic. And I want to say that even people who have private preschools were there to talk about who could meet, you know, whose needs we would be meeting. A large community of the Acton students, when they come to kindergarten, have not had any preschool experience. And so we talked about what that could do for them. We asked questions that we didn't have the answers to yet, such as access to all the specialists for the preschool program. You know, would we be able to use their expertise? Do we have to look at certification for teachers? Most of the teachers here in the school are certified K-8. What would it mean if we could access the teachers that are in the specialist areas or other teachers? We also talked about the shared responsibility, which has been part of our conversation in other arenas, of, you know, the kindergarten teacher's expertise and having that discussion with the preschool teacher, so that if somebody was moving ahead faster than the regular program, how could we help the students get what they need? So overall, it was a really productive and a thought-provoking conversation. Like I said, we met for an hour and a half. We've set our next meeting date for March 19th, where we will then look at looking at the paperwork that has to be done, the legwork that has to be done, but also calling parents and getting their feedback directly. So I'm really appreciative of the large group that turned out that day.
Is that the night of the town meeting?
I don't know.
No, that's a
me.
Thursday. It's a Thursday, the 19th.
There's no, it's
Good
no
question.
That's when the town meeting.
Oh, I thought it was the
The town meeting is
17th.
Thursday the 19th?
Yes.
Then we will be moving our meeting.
What town meeting?
Evidently,
town
most of us in the
meeting
group
for
are
the
not
school?
Acton
school
residents.
town meeting?
Now, what's that town meeting for?
Raising funds for the winter maintenance,
Oh.
all the extra snow.
Oh, it's
Oh.
a special town.
Yeah.
It's a
All right,
special
well, we'll
town
tell
meeting.
them to move their special town
So it's a-
meeting because we had ours first. No, kidding.
Well, then I will let you know what the new date is.
I was gonna say, what town meeting?
To
I
go research.
just want to comment on that. When I met with the coordinator at the DOE back in, I think it was December, maybe, somewhere around
Yeah.
there, she said, well, you know, it's really hard to get this off the ground in a year, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And she says, well, let's go through these different items. And I said, and I took my 3-ring binder, opened it up, and I said, these items there? She says, yes. And so then we went, she's, you've already done most of it, okay? She says, but you've done the most important thing, which is you've determined the biggest impediment to starting a pre-K program is lack of space in the facility and the transportation, which we think we have a solution to both. So that's your biggest cost to starting the pre-K program, believe it or not. She was talking in the neighborhood of like potentially some just $250,000 to start a pre-K just because of all those. We don't have the transportation of that. Basically, all we're talking about is curriculum resource materials, which we already have a pretty good idea, it's not that much, and the body. So it's actually a pretty good deal for this district, just because of the nature of space. So, all right, any questions on pre-K, anything like that? Next item, then. Designated funds, don't click on that yet. This budget and my proposal is really dependent upon that these designated fund concept takes place. Because we have not put in the budget places where we put in, that has been put in the budget in the past for the just-in-case situations. And we actually had a situation today, was it today or yesterday?
No,
Today. You were telling what happened?
We received a letter that a homeschool student has now enrolled at Baxter Technology. And so that right there is, well, for a year it's about 9,600, so for the half a year it's probably 4,500, but still, it's something that, that's what we have to do a contingency within our budget to do to cover for that particular case, because I didn't budget for her, what, for this student last
Last year.
year, because I didn't know about it.
And how many homeschool kids do we have right now?
We have at least 12 homes.
At the high school level.
At the high school level.
Yeah.
I see a question over here.
Yes.
I just wanted to know if we have data over the last 5 years, or 10 years, in terms of things like this, to say that the maximum of unanticipated homeschool children that decided to go into the system officially was X.
I don't have it.
And the same for the.
But I can say this.
Same for the special ed children. How many special ed kids unanticipated come into the system? What's the maximum number? Are we gonna have a ceiling on the bucket?
Yes, yes. That's where we're going next.
And that's gonna
That's
be
the
based
discussion we're gonna have
on
next.
data,
Well,
if you
yes, in
can.
this sense. Why is the undesignated fund grown?
Because.
Because of this.
Yes.
So by trying to be tighter with your budget from here forward, remember we were talking about taking out these, this is gonna take care of that, so the following year, we can next year budget for that kid as part of our regular budget thing. Okay?
I understand.
That's the theory. Think of it as kind of like, saving for a Christmas that you never go to Christmas, spend for. Okay, he should be able to get to that now. Can you get that link? Okay, can you blow that up a little bit? Okay. Just to stop right there, just to review, these 3 designated funds already exist. This one here, this is capital reserve, this is for like if the boiler should blow up immediately, we need to rest it up over the weekend. He just starts doing it, we know we have the money set aside, okay? You can think of everything else similar to that kind of situation, a special needs kid or whatever. Fuel, we're getting kind of fortunate. And we've had a little, since last time? We had a little, we were able to, go ahead, talk to it.
Well, typically, I've mentioned this the last few years during the budget process, that we basically have got to pick a number for our oil. And it's always difficult because the market changes so dramatically at times. And when I first came here, we used to have our oil price locked in the spring, and each year since then, it's gotten pushed further into the year. Sometimes we don't lock it until like July or August.
Tell them how we lock it in and who.
Well, we buy in with Sanford. And basically Sanford works out all the details of the contract, but we're included in their contract. And very fortunate for us this year, we've already got our contract finalized, so we know exactly what we're going to be
How much
spending
a
for fuel. This year we had locked in at $3.19, which was not to our advantage. Next year we're locked in at $2.22 a gallon, which is a great, very much to our advantage.
And so we had budgeted, and as a result of what we initially guessed versus what we know now, I think it's around 24,000 savings
Yes.
than what we
Yeah.
originally put in the original as-is budget. Okay, let's move down, just go right to the next page, because this part, this is what we've been talking about all along, why we need it. Keep going, keep going. These are some of the examples of why we want to do it, which we were just talking again. Boiler, computer, special needs. Next page. Okay, keep going, keep going. Okay, right, down, up, back a little bit. Back. Kim, would you reiterate how this all started with regards to the auditor last year? The undesignated fund being so large and requests that we address it through policy, et cetera.
Right. Well, when you look at, like I said, the 5 years plan, and you see how it's grown, okay? There's a couple of things. The state has a state law that says, you cannot, as of starting next year, your undesignated fund balance, if it's greater than 10%, that money has to come back to the town, okay? Last year, because this is continuing to grow, we needed to have a fund balance policy to say, well, what happens when it gets to a certain level? You need to, basically what we had to determine was what range do we need to stay in, so that way, from the time that we start our fiscal year to the time the tax bills come in, we need to make sure we cover a certain amount of salary, we need to make sure we cover our portion of the Sanford High School bill, our transportation costs, all of those, so that way you're not trying to shuffle money or borrow money real quick like. So if you stay within a certain range, between the 400 and 800 is basically what we've determined that range is where we should be. And within the fund balance policy, there is a policy that says, well, if your total expenditure is a certain amount of money, you divide it by a certain number of school days, but there's a formula. So anyway, so as long as you stay within that range and your number is within that range, you should be good all the way through till your tax bills, your money starts coming in from your tax bills. And when you have that policy, it also states when you have more left over, you have to, you basically return it back to the town, and so that way you stay at a specific level. You don't, this increase that's happened over the last 5 or 6 years stops, But to do that, you also, like I said, if these designated funds sit over here, we don't have to budget for what happens if. That way it's there already, and we budget for what we need, so it stays at a consistent level. If you start budgeting for, what if you have 10 kids that all of a sudden they need to go to charter school, it's $110,000. Well, then all of a sudden, you do this back and forth.
Now, I just mentioned, I don't know, when this first was brought up, I think, Tom, you brought up, we gotta make, you said, I think, the town's gotta make sure we have enough set aside to cover the, the cost of the school through those cycles of which he's just explaining. What I'm trying to say is, we're addressing it through the fund balance policy. The board was working on it about the time I came on. I think that's when the first or second read or something was taking place at that time. So
I'm just a little concerned about how visible that is to the public and understanding this process.
It will be right on the warrant.
Well, that sounds good, but
Well,
clarity is.
You're one of the public, and everybody here.
Yeah.
The more we educate, the better off we'll be on this.
I think for me the important thing to look at is to look at what's gone into that undesignated fund for the last few years and realize that wasn't just fluff money that was put in there. That was put in there because you don't know if these things are going to happen, and you have to plan ahead. And by not having to plan for all those things, then your budget can be much more tight to the belt. It can be much more transparent. It can be much more right to the line of what we really actually need. We won't have to think about what are we going to do if we have a special ed student move in that's going to cost us $50,000.
I understand.
It's, I think, getting rid of those big sums at the end that are left over because we didn't need our what-ifs, to me, is the perfect reason to go to these designated funds that caused the what-ifs in the first place, that caused that extra money to have to be budgeted in there.
And when the auditor was here, I think he
And he recommended that.
recommended it.
Yeah.
So what we did is we took what was there, we determined, and just go up a little bit, we determined that, go up
This way or the other way?
this way. No, right there. Right there. We determined, we said, well, we got a roughly $260,000 that we can divide up into these designated funds based on the fund balance policy, taking away the minimum, the maximum, the range, so forth. So if you move up, we're going to start, and I call these buckets because at the time that seemed to help people understand this a little better. Okay, the first one is tuition.
Oops, sorry. Got the finger in the button.
Is a tuition reserve account, if you will. Keep going. Keep going. Right there. And assisted technology. And this is kind of a bucket in a combination of things. This is to address that special needs kid that might move in. This is to address some of the kids that, like this homeschool situation, if we hadn't budgeted and we weren't able to, this year, is there some extra in that budget? Yeah, just for this reason, because this didn't exist. It won't be in the next budget. And I say assisted technology because sometimes you'll get a child that comes here with a special need and you might have to, I don't know, wheelchair maybe, hearing, and it can run some big stuff. I'm looking at Joy for a number here. You've seen some probably big numbers over the time. And so, special need,
Equipment?
yeah.
Yeah, it could be thousands of dollars.
So,
Wheelchairs.
and a kid can move in tomorrow that needs this, and we got no way to pony up, if you will. short of holding a special town meeting, but we couldn't do that either because of basically identifying the child. The next, so what we need to do tonight is we're gonna go through all these real quick, and then we're gonna go back and the board, and I guess maybe with combination of the board and finance, determine what should be initial fund be in those, and also potentially if there should be a minimum and maximum over time. Okay? So I'm just gonna turn it over and say, we'll go through each one, then we'll come back and we'll, is that a good enough process for people?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So designated, we're suggesting 150. Designated professional service reserve, this is like if, you want to talk about the law fees this here again? There's additional people here tonight.
Oh, yeah, because basically this year we had a lot in legal fees due to personnel
Things.
issues.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of paperwork, letters, meetings, and hours had almost doubled by the time what we budgeted last year, what we paid so far.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. So that's what that is. Can we move up? Oh, no, leave right there, because you might lose it, so. Designated technology reserve. In the past, Mike has made sure in his budget that he had enough to cover, like if he lost a server in the middle of the year. Well, some years he might lose one, some years he doesn't. So what will happen, he has excess money at the end of the year. Okay? I'm going to leave it at that, just use the server as example. $10,000, he built this budget is based on that being in there for his line. If this isn't approved this way, we need to add about $10,000 into his budget just to make sure. Okay, go up. This one, I could speak to better to this after next Monday. Monday, the York County Superintendent's Association is meeting, and we're having somebody come in and talk about the Affordable Care Act and the impact it's going to have. And I used to be in that business, and my point is here, I think this might be a way we can help address something in particular when we start doing the contract negotiations.
Got a spelling error there.
Heath Reserve.
Where is this? Where is
Heath
it?
Reserve in the title.
Heath Reserve, well, yeah.
Working
All
on
right.
those fields.
Look how quick he fixed
Well,
it.
the other, and the other thing to think of as far as help is too, is if we have an employee get married, I budget them as being single.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that also come into play.
You just added $10,000 to your health care.
And they do have babies too.
Oh, and that happening too, yes, we're.
And then
Or
they
adult with child.
Then they switch to a family plan or whatever, so, yeah.
Designated security and safety upgrades. I think I've gone through that in pretty well detail about, we had a plan, I showed you the potential, the bids and so forth. You guys remember that, all that? So we'd set initial funding at $35,000. We think it's gonna come in real close to that, which that's what we've seen so far. I think we're like at 32 or 33 at the moment. So, the initial. Designated capital reserve, account B. I call it B because the $50,000 above is for like the boiler and so forth. This is to address some of the ongoing things that are part of the long-range strategic plan. Not necessarily a word. Long-range planning committee's work, and they've identified a variety of things which I shared last time. And the next one, which I didn't put any number in, is the matching grant. This was, believe it or not, on a ride home one night. I'm like, oh, why don't we double our money or triple our money any way we can? Matching grants. Matching grants come along during the school year, but you haven't budgeted for anything to match a grant. So I think we should put some money in there, and then we advocate and go out there and search for grants that augment our program, not staffing, but maybe assisted aids or whatever, and maybe double our money. For every dollar, we get a matching dollar from a foundation or something. Okay? Yes, sir.
Do we have a person who is a grant writer and a grant seeker for the county, for the school system?
Not the county, not the
For
school.
this school? Do we have a combination of Shapley and Acton and somebody else
Not yet.
who are going to hire
You
someone to
volunteering?
look for grants and to,
Well,
No, actually, I
we've
mean,
had
it's
some
a-
staff members that were trained and that took courses in grant writing. Kim was one, and Lisa DeWitt.
And Lisa
They-
has
they-
gotten,
Yeah, they took special courses last summer in grant writing.
grant writing?
Yeah.
Right.
and
I
Lisa
write
got
grants.
2 this year, right? 2, I think, this year. 1 for sure.
We got a
One
grant
for
for
sure.
30
But
The
we
520
did the
grant,
this
right?
summer.
Right? 5210, and then,
Are other school systems around here, like Shapley, for example,
I
or
don't
someone
know.
else, interested in joining with us to hire a grant writer and seeker?
I don't know, but I do know that some districts have done exactly that. They've combined two people to, like up in where I'm from.
I like that
That way they have somebody, that was their job between two districts.
So I don't know where you're from.
Oh, the coast, further up along the coast.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they did, but that, why don't we put that on our list to
Yeah, that's a good idea.
pursue? So now let's go back and set minimum or a bucket amount and a no range, and I'm leaving that up to you guys. And we should set a number there. Because we basically got the 260 to divvy up. Right now, the 260 is divvied up as it's slated, not counting this one.
So Kim,
So pick a number here and we'll
looking
get
at,
take away from all this.
looking at past grants that we've had, what would you think would be a good number for?
I would, you know, at least start at 10. We're applying, or Lisa and I are working on another one for next summer, and we're trying to double that, and looking for $10,000 to do the summer reading program that we did last year, and be able to provide our own transportation, that type of stuff. So it's doubling what we requested last year, which we got, and hopefully we'll get, you know, the 10,000 we're requesting this year. But a lot of them, the matching ones, I think if we start with $10,000, I think, you know, and then see how the year progresses and
Adjust each year, you just
and
adjust.
adjust, yeah. I think that would be a good number to start with, so.
Board members?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So we'll put $10,000 in that.
Okay, so we gotta take 10,000 out of up above or one of these other lines. And I would say that one I would suggest not take it out of. That one I would suggest not take it out because we already know we can execute those next year. This is the most likely one. This one I would not suggest. Or you could tweak these two.
Or could we just do, instead of 600,000, make it 590?
Go back up, he's talking about right here.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to Kim to have input on that.
For 10,000, I mean, you're talking 10,000?
Yeah.
That's probably not.
Okay, so we're gonna adjust this to, change that to 590, change that to 270, please. Okay,
Right now, what does a regular student cost?
she got that number right there.
For high school or?
No, for elementary and for high school, shipping them over to Sanford.
The per capita?
Per capita.
It's $99.60 for a high school student to go to Sanford High School.
That's just tuition.
That's just tuition.
That's
Like
just
they-
tuition.
they- you mean the
That's
cost
not
per pupil?
Transportation, that's not,
It's not factored into that number.
yeah, that's,
And that
So
also
if you
does,
factored it all in, how much would it be? Do you have any idea? Because I know the
Forget about it.
transportation for the special ed is something really
well, that's different.
high. And that's why I wanted to know what the actual cost was for a regular student. What's the cost
It's
for
in
a
the
special ed
contract.
student?
Well,
It's in contract.
when we get to the article that has transportation, we could probably, that's why we could do a quick divide right there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's,
Okay, because it's in your packet.
okay.
I think we can do a quick divide there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if a child though is going to a charter school or a different, or a private school,
That's
No, it's
their
the same.
problem.
that's their.
but the transportation is not Acton's
Correct.
cost.
no.
So that would come to the school board to pay for.
No.
No, we don't do
We
it.
don't pay.
They,
If they choose a different school than Sanford, is the parent's
it's the
responsibility.
parent's responsibility.
Like, we have several students that go to, or residents that go to Massabesic. Next year, we're gonna have one child go to Noble.
You need 5 at
And that happens to be a
Noble.
program need, and that's, by the way, that's
Still do?
it's a good savings for the district for what that child potentially costs. And we have,
And if the tuition is higher than what Sanford would be,
No,
the
it,
cost?
it caps.
So
So,
there's like a
so if they
voucher
decide
type
that
thing?
they wanna go to or a charter school that's $12,000,
Uh-huh.
we will only cover $99.60.
The $99.60.
What we pay Sanford, that's it.
and that's that's factored off a state rate. It's 2 years in arrears, I think, the 2
Yes.
years back
2 years
number.
back.
Okay, so now I need to know why the secondary education public, the 1,100,000, page 3, 1,155,000, but in the description it says 11,000 per student.
That's for next year. This year, okay, $99.60 is what it costs this year.
Right now.
Yes, and that increased by almost 3% last year. So I had budgeted I had asked Sanford, they said $9,000, and then when I got it was $900, and I was like, oh, okay. So, but fortunately, I had 5 or 6 more kids than I thought because we lost a few, and so it'll balance out. But so next year, because I don't know what the state rate is going to be.
When do we know
next year.
that?
They don't put it out until like November.
Yeah.
I think it's November or
right,
December.
okay.
So
Yeah.
I figured another 3, I went up to 11 because from the last 2 years, it jumped a couple, $1,500, $1,600, so I just.
And if you look at on the DOE site, they have the state rates over all the years.
Yeah.
They pretty much consistently go above
Okay.
that.
A percentage.
The transportation for special ed high school is also more costly
No.
than regular
They
transportation?
just go with the regular
So you
kids.
just
Yeah.
go with regular?
Unless there's a special need.
So it's only
situation.
elementary school transportation special ed that's probably
Currently,
different?
we only have one, or currently we have some children in the K-8 range that need special transportation. We don't have it even in the.
But that's only applicable towards grammar school, not
At the
Well,
moment.
at the
It's
moment.
for-
That's the
But it
only
could be-
need right now.
It could be a high
But if
school.
it were,
Could be.
could be a high school
Okay.
student.
That's kind of what that.
And that could change at any moment.
Yeah.
Assistive
And I
technology.
surely would like to know over the last 5 or 10 years, how many of these are coming in so we'd be able to show people this is based on
We
data,
haven't done that many.
Okay.
not memory.
I tried, but I've only been here since October.
Because
Most has
I agree
changed.
with him, that, a lot of old people in this town now, older than the average town in Maine, and Maine is the oldest state. And they already have their kids, and they're gonna go to these meetings and listen to the fact that the school board has accumulated lots of money and extra money. And I just have a horrible feeling that it's gonna be a rather negative.
See, that was the point I was gonna make as well. I don't think we spent enough time on, like, what I think Tom was getting to, because I love this. I'm
Yes, this is the
100%
right idea.
behind it. I think it's smart financing.
Absolutely.
But when you look at a lot of people that don't want to take the time to really delve into this, or can't take the time to delve into this and read this and see what's on the report or whatever, but our voters, and will vote, we've got to have a unified, simple way of catching them simply to show that this is worthwhile and it's smart financing, because I've seen it so many times, being somebody that, you and I were talking about it, being somebody that's brought forth some initiatives before, and I just thought they were the greatest thing going, and I had all of it all planned out, and I had a great PowerPoint and all that, and they kicked the crap out of me. And I realized that it wasn't their fault and it wasn't my fault. I just had to deliver something, different, and it sometimes took time.
Big time.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand that there's an older population in this town, but I think that people in this town need to be more understanding that our kids are our future, and that all of you have put your kids through school, and that we need to prepare our students for where they're going in the 21st century, and for you to say, for people to not care about our kids, that just irks me a little bit.
Yes.
My name
Yeah.
is Gluck. This town has cared about its kids historically, and will continue to do so, provided they feel like they are being dealt with and they can understand the process, comprehend it, and work through it.
So
This
For
is a hard
years,
concept.
we've done this. Whenever there was a problem, the town has stood behind it, okay? The problem here is, if they feel like they're being bamboozled, and there is some evidence here that it hasn't been done as well as it could have been done in the past, right? Okay, let's put that aside.
No,
No,
okay.
yeah.
I won't say that. I say,
Okay, all right.
they protected you from having to do this. If we don't have something like this, and we didn't have it in the line, like we don't in the proposed budget, say this doesn't exist. A bunch of kids come in, a family moves in and has 3, 4 kids, and whatever, okay? In order for me to come up to transport a kid that may cost $100,000, say, to transport this kid.
You're jumping ahead of where I was.
No, listen. The only place that I could come up with $100,000 is staff. cutting it mid-year. And it's gonna be the support staff to do it, because that's the only place you can address it.
We'll come back to the issue.
Richard.
That is the issue.
No, it's not.
That is
The older
the-
folks do
Percy.
stand
Yeah.
behind the kids, though. They do stand behind.
Percy,
They need to understand.
What he said may have been true 5 or 10 years ago. Today, we have a lot of people who own camps on the lakes who have retired. They are selling wherever they live, Connecticut or wherever, and they're moving to Acton full-time. Now, they are a voter. And a lot of these people, for one reason or another, don't care. They don't have any kids in the system, and they don't care. I happen to feel the way some of you people do, that if we don't educate our kids, they become a drone on the town for the rest of their lives. But I'm not the majority anymore. And when somebody moves up here and becomes a voter, we don't plow their road because it's a camp road. They're paying the biggest tax bill because they live on the water. And if we don't do a good job of explaining why we want to do this and how it will, in the long run, save the town money, they're gonna vote against it. And you better accept this as the way things are happening now.
and to just to go back to what Diana said, I mean, I think the senior population has probably been more supportive over the last few years and more instrumental in passing our budget than the parents of the kids in the school. The senior people care about the kids, they care about the community, they come out and vote.
They volunteer.
They'll go to the polls, they volunteer. I've been to some senior luncheons, they want to know, they ask questions about the budget. I think as a town, I know we do have the issue of people moving in onto the lakes and so forth. But I think as on the whole, our senior citizens have been awesome in the last few years in supporting, especially since we went to this referendum, state mandated referendum thing. I think we can really count on the senior citizens of the town to support us because they put their trust in us, and that's why we have to be totally transparent and try to get as much of this clarity as we can on the changes that we're making in this year's budget.
I just want to say, I don't mean to sound negative towards the older population in town. I want to say that right now, okay? I want to say that right now because probably what I said came across a little very pointed, and I don't mean to sound very pointed, but I've lived in this town for 12 years now, and I've seen some of the tides of the town. I care very deeply about this town. And I guess, Tom, I just want to go back to what you were saying. What do you think people need to be more educated about what we want to do here with the budget so that they'll go with what we think is best for the kids?
I think the focus has to be clarity. That when people go, and I think clarity is more important. You can't spend enough time educating because the people are not that interested until they get to the floor of the town meeting. If they can get to the floor of the town meeting, all right, and it is clear to them what's happening, you're golden, okay? If it's not clear to them, when you get to the floor of the town meeting automatically kills it.
But you need more than 40 people to show up at town meeting.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Kevin, yeah.
So I make a recommendation in regards to, because again, as someone who's somewhat new to the town and only been on the school committee for a couple of years now, the two things that drew us here was it's a wonderful community and good school. However, being on the school board for the past couple of years, one of the reasons why we've changed the policy this year is exactly for what Tom has been saying, is that as a school committee member, I've gotten a lot of questions about what do these numbers mean? And my perception, and my perception the board has been trying to do is simplify in the communication, provide more clarity and simplify the process rather than having the process to support the what ifs be in all the different line items of the budget. I think it's much easier to understand, and it's clear if we see these are the biggest areas where there are potentialities for a lot of surprises.
Uncertainty.
Correct. And we want to be, I think it's clear to understand these are the categories, and I think it's a good idea to have some historical precedent. And so I would make a recommendation, 2 recommendations actually, in the communications, the messages that are part of on the town floor. I don't know where this would go, but I know we usually have the budget booklet. I would recommend 2 things in that budget booklet. The first thing is a little bit of an explanation of why the change in the process from moving and trying to address these uncertainties in the line items and why we're moving to the buckets, because I think it provides clarity. The second thing I would add to do is for each of the buckets, I think it's hard to go back historically post hoc and identify all of the averages. Maybe we could, but I think what would be good is just an illustrative example. So for example, why $150,000 for category A, the designated tuition? Because the A has happened in the past and B has happened in the past, which could cost this much money. So if people can see, oh, 3 kids changing is $40,000, I see something real. So really for each of these, maybe 1 or 2 examples historically that have happened that would explain why that number. So that's what I think, again, for the sake of clarity in the messaging, an explanation of why the shift, and 2, some examples for these bins. I think I don't know if maybe there are other ways, but I agree, explaining a little bit of the why and the how, because people want to, why are you making this change? We're making this change to increase clarity so that people know what the funds are, rather than it's just this odd number or 1 just to even know in advance. But also, why did you choose 150? Why did you choose 10,000? Why did you choose 10,000? We have those data. So that would be my recommendation, those 2 things. A little upfront blurb and some examples.
So you can get some data. So you could say, you know, on the average for the last 5 years, 1.75 unanticipated children with severe handicaps entered the school system that were not anticipated.
If we have the data, I would say that's the first way to go. If not, then
we know we have the data the reverse way, right, Joy? We had data for this year that didn't show. So it's the same number, it's just the other way around.
Absolutely.
So we can get, one way or the other, we can come up with a number.
And there was one year when we had, it was either like extra kids going to high school, some kids moved in or something, and what happened was we had to freeze the budget halfway through the year.
That's right.
We had to ask and the state also gave us less revenue, that they cut back on what, we had to ask the teachers to take furlough days, and it all happened in the same year. And we had no designated fund at that time to even fall back on it, to take a look at, to even ask the town if we could go into, because we didn't have a designated fund. We were in hot water.
But I would be willing to say that for the average person, if you could say the average child at grammar school is 8,400, for the high school 9,960, special ed 50,000, 51,000, including transportation. And for high school, I think we said 11,000 something. That's
Plus
I know the
transportation.
special ed number for here, it's around $37,000.
$37,000. And over the last 5 years, we've had X number of unanticipated children come in here with this problem. Using the example, but having some data.
Correct, absolutely.
I'm against people just getting up and saying, you know, a testimonial. If you have some data.
David.
Speaking of my
language. And just briefly also, I think it's also real important that what was done before really wasn't anything inappropriate or wrong. You know, the message is everybody was looking for a way to just do things, problem solve and do things better. You know, looking for a way, and I think it was a response to some of what, you know, has come up for years and years about these things creeping away from us and ballooning, you know, bigger and bigger and having a hard time controlling it. So it wasn't that it was wrong or inappropriate, you know, and I think data helps with explain that, as well as good narratives, kind of like what Kevin was talking about. And it just shows we're looking for a, you know, looking for a better way.
Do we have
Judy.
more children now in special ed than we had 3 years ago?
I just-
I can't answer
No.
that.
About?
No, we have less, but I
Less.
don't have that number in front of me right now.
But it's not growing
No,
as
it's
far
not
as
growing.
percentage-wise.
The total population is decreasing,
Right.
and as that decreases, we also have a special ed population that's decreasing.
It's going down with the general population.
Percentage-wise, though, it's probably the same.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe-
Mary,
well, we're trying
Oh,
to
sorry.
discharge more, we're trying to be clearer about the guidelines and
The state stiffened up some of it.
following the guidelines more strictly, so that we identify students appropriately, and we also discharge them when they are not eligible.
I promise I won't ask any more questions.
Oh, these are good. These are great. Thank you.
This is
What it's all about, that's what it's.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And if everyone in this room understands this and can go and talk to 2 people and get them to understand it, I mean, you're starting to get to, the whole idea is critical mass. You just gotta
Mary.
get it up.
No, I'd just like to go back to the beginning where we had the budget comparison, and when you add up those totals that we were over budgeted, you know, and it comes to 900,000, we budgeted that for education. And so we feel we're not going to tax the taxpayer more because we have the 900,000 in undesignated school funds, okay? What do we do with that? And that was why I was able to come to a conclusion that the bucket theory is a good idea. Once we use the money in there, it's gone. Yeah.
Well,
you
it's
know?
not gone, it's sitting there.
If
for
we
a case.
use, you know, if we use all of the 10,000, or whatever,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the 10,000 for technology reserve, and we use that because we're buying the equipment next year, it's zero. And we could either keep that bucket and put the money back in the next budget cycle, or say, you know what, we got what we needed, we don't need that bucket.
Good.
That's how I would look at that. So, the money is there. I don't know, the other thing is, I guess, is to just throw it back to the town and everyone gets a tax break, so I don't know.
But
How
what-
else would it work?
well, if the buckets all pass, then we're gonna be in a better position to give money back to the town
We're
for
gonna get
tax
to that tonight
relief.
if we get
Right.
there.
I guess I would say, what happens if they
Because some
don't
of-
pass? That's what I need
If
to
they
know.
don't pass, then
We're gonna touch on that
Yeah.
at the end.
But to clarify, what we actually have in front of us is, you had that 900 and whatever thousand. Some of that's going back to the town. Some of it's going back into staying and undesignated to account for those, you know, the costs. And that which is not accounted for there is going into the bucket. So there's a 3-pronged approach here.
Sure.
Buckets.
Yeah.
The
Undesignated.
undesignated
Move
funds,
forward.
and a return to the town.
right.
There are all 3. It's sort of balancing it all out.
The turn town will be at the end.
Right.
If it passes.
But there was the first one up in there, the 130.
Yeah.
That
If you go
yes,
down just a little,
from- Yes.
yeah, right there.
That 130, that's what I'm
Last
talking
year,
about.
yes,
This was because you guys carried over
Yes.
130,000.
right.
Yes.
So it's returned within this budget cycle.
Right.
Okay. But that's the idea.
It's not
yeah.
physically turned back to town, but it's absorbed back into
Yeah.
this budget
To offset.
Because we
the-
moved it forward.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yes,
your
correct.
tax base was $130,000 less this year because we took it out of.
Now, a district I came from, what they would do, it's a much bigger district, I mean, it's $23, $24 million. They would carry over between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. You guys carried 130 over, and what they do is, in those lines, you know, like all these little lines, they just make sure they always carry $130,000 over every single time. That's another approach, but you gotta be sure you can do that every single time.
Right.
And that's kind of iffy on a small budget of,
No, I don't like that
I say
theory.
small, 5 million, it's not small, but compared to
Relatively.
relatively, you know, 22 million's carrying up around 115,000 over, and 5 million's carrying 130,000? That's a,
But I think it's an important point too, just, my 3rd budget season, this is the 3rd different way we've done it. This has been by far the clearest, and I think the easiest to understand, and the one with the greatest transparency, and I appreciate that.
okay. So let's go to the next, back to the, Mike, back to the other thing. And designated fund, so we're on the next slide. Okay, now we're at the article book back. Into the same
You
thing
love
I
messing
am.
with us, Mike, don't you?
Right there. Don't touch it.
Stop right there.
Okay, article revisit. Do people want to stand up, stretch for a second? Keep going. Okay. Article revisit list. We're going to go through this. Kim's got a computer sitting there. As we go through this, and if there's any suggested changes by the committee, she's going to make the change right in it. So this sheet you want to write on, because she's going to make the changes as we go. If there is a change or whatever. I assume there will be. Superintendent's budget at a glance. I just want to touch on this before we get going. Would you go to the next slide for a second, if you can? Arrow down. This is what I proposed. That's what's been factored into this budget. Cut one teaching position from the classroom, cut one special ed manager, outsource the special ed director's position, add an instructional coach, add the pre-K program / teacher, cut or reduce in some numerous areas you'll see, and realign a variety of roles. This is really not the budget. This is more of job roles, is what that last one. Okay? So back up one. So now we're on the committee members. I guess they've already stated that you're supporting those proposed changes. Is there any tweaks you'd like to do to said changes to my recommendations? If not, we'll go on to any general comments. Now this is, I put this in specifically for you, Mr. Hart. When we did the revisioning, there were certain places that, even when Kevin was here, I said, oh, he's going to want to revisit that one. We put an R.
Thank you.
Okay? We put an R. So there are some places where an R exists on an article line that has the same basically description but multiple places. An example might be supplies, field trips, or staffing. So this is an opportunity for the board to talk about any of this stuff before we start. So we don't have to hit everyone individually.
I'll start.
Okay.
Supply. So probably the one thing in the budget that, I don't know if concern's the right word, is some of the smallest items are supplies, are line items or supplies. Yet of all the line items, those are the ones that have a direct impact on kids. Yet many of them were zero.
Increase.
There was a zero increase. And I interpret that as, and this is, again for the committee, is I interpret that as teachers trying to be really diligent and not to, increase the budget. I think those are some of the most important things. Those are the things we actually put into kids' hands. And I don't like seeing a zero there. I think a 2 or 3%, or I don't know what would be good, but just even philosophically and knowing that the cost increase from year to year, no one has ever said anything to me, but I would guarantee that teachers are paying for these things out of their pocket because kids need markers and things like that, that there should be just a standard for supplies increase. I don't like the zero. I have a problem with that because, again, that is in the kids' hands. And if we have to cut back somewhere else, I'm happy to cut back somewhere else, but not in the things that go in the kids' hands. So I would like it just sort of, in general, sometimes there are bigger things like, we need this piece of equipment or, what have you, and sometimes there might be more, but I don't like seeing the zeros there. So I'm proposing that we actually have a standard increase for supplies. And I think probably the overall impact on the budget would be negligible.
Do you want to make a percentage proposal? Just so we know. So because she's going to try to keep this up to date as we go. So at the end of tonight, we'll know exactly where we
Well, I
stand.
guess I'd like to know if people have used the supply line to the fullest. That's true.
We have teachers here.
Most teachers do. Most teachers do. They, basically what we do is we start out, each teacher has their budget.
Right.
Some teachers, basically we all say that, get at least $500 worth of supplies, okay? Sometimes, some particular classrooms have different, because of the curriculum they're teaching, their supplies are totally different. Literacy teacher was basically all books, so there's always more going to those particular classes. And then we've always found ways to make sure that everybody's supplies get covered. Sometimes maybe not as much is spent in staff development or field trips, things like that, where they might have put some budgets in, and so if it's within their budget, they can kind of tweak things a little bit as long as it's within their own budget. But for the most part, we've had a couple teachers that come real close, and we try to move stuff around so we can cover their supplies, but, I think that overall the teachers have done well with their supplies.
So throw out a number? I mean, because I think
Yeah, I think
these
we
are
got
the
some
small.
teachers that might-
Yeah, these are.
Any teachers have any suggestions on a percentage of increase?
All I can say is I like the spirit of what Kevin is saying, because I think in past years, and I know things could be different right now, the message we get as teachers is to think thin and think stringently.
Correct.
Mhm.
And I like what I'm hearing you saying, Kevin, because I think you would like us to feel more able to look and see what could actually.
What do we want to
be-
put in kids' hands?
Thank you.
And even things that we assume are not perishable are perishable. Books get destroyed, bindings crack,
So I think we live
markers
within our
dry
supply
out.
budget, but I think the message we've been given for many years is always think lean.
Be frugal,
always
be
think
frugal.
lean.
So I would throw it in this 5% if we need a number. But Dave?
Well, I was just gonna say, I teach science, and obviously it's a very supplies-heavy, type of,
Kids drop beakers.
yeah, yeah, and Cammy and I were actually just talking, I mean, memory-wise, I mean, I think we've been told to hold the same number for budget for, 6 or 8 years at least, or perhaps more than that. So basically, yeah, I mean, it could be close to a decade now, because, I mean, this has been going on.
The past few years, I've noticed this
longer,
remaining
longer,
flat.
Well,
pretty
it
much.
was $700 about 10 years ago, huge drop, and it crept back up again, but not as high as it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, that was our
Still lower than it was
recollection.
10 years
All
ago?
I
It
know
was
is
lower than it was 10 years ago.
what it does,
but higher
it
than
goes
it was
to
5 years ago.
maintaining my program. I think most teachers would say that, you're maintaining what you're already doing or supplying.
I could say that first graders are very hard on dry erase markers. And write very hard with them, and they're all mashed in now.
I pulled them out of ears.
The accountant loves the amount that we can write off, but I'm already spending money on things for my class.
And there is a good side to it, I think, in some ways,
good to be
having
frugal.
a little bit of you're having a little of that pressure makes you naturally a little more resourceful. But I've been resourceful, we've all been resourceful over the
also
last 8 or
limits
10
your-
years,
limits your
there's still a
class.
point.
Limits your classroom lesson creativity too, having
Sometimes.
stringent budget.
But again, and for me, it's the spirit of the message too, is those are the line items that actually directly go to kids. Those are the ones I think we've scrimped on the most, and it's just.
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
5%.
move this one along. Does everybody think 5% on supplies is a good increase?
Good start.
Good place to start?
Yes, because it's
Supplies,
5% is a
right
very little
across the-
amount.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's in multiple places, right?
Now, in Article 2, under
Okay.
I'm
supplies,
just keeping you busy over there,
looks
Kim.
like there's a
Okay.
60% increase.
Anybody else?
Where?
Well, supplies for enrichment program.
That's for
added
enrichment
300.
programs.
Not that they shouldn't have any
We'll
more,
get
I'm
to
just
that.
saying there's 2 or 3 here. And there's one that
Yeah, not tractors.
Does anybody else at the committee want to comment on anything else in general, or the public, or the warrant finance on anything?
Are you
Before we
talking just the supply line for the
cracking?
teachers?
There's a handful of
Because-
them that are small that are 0%. Not every
So
single.
there's some that
That's
have the
right.
6%, so leave that alone.
60% one of them is on the
Yeah,
article.
some of
60.
them are, they were substantively different.
Right.
But those would be workbooks and things for new curriculum.
Exactly.
No, so she
Right.
knows where to add the money.
She knows.
If it's a 0,
Yeah,
it's 5%.
that's under
Okay.
co-curricular is 0.
Yeah.
So any place that it's 0 increase, Kim, that's where we want the 5%.
You catch
Okay.
that, Kim?
All right.
Okay, so now we're on to the R's revisit list by article in order. So we're gonna start on page 1, and I will kind of walk us through it again. And the R's were, whoever remembers that they put down an R or something, I'm just gonna ask, is there still a question? Because we tried to give answers in the comments section, okay? So we don't need to go over everything, we're just gonna hit the R's at this point, okay? So page 1. You said R, somebody said revisit. We okay with that? Teacher salaries and then tech salaries.
Oh, okay.
We're on page
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Any changes there, anybody?
So there's a good example on page 1, second to the bottom.
Right, but let's go in order.
Yep, sorry.
R, the third R, 17, one says 17%. Committee or anyone want to make any changes there? Okay, the second from the bottom, that needs to be adjusted 5%, right? Kim?
Yeah.
Testing, I'm not sure why that was said as an R.
I think it was because of the decrease.
One of the
Was
reasons?
wondering why there was a decrease.
Let me see if I got an old note.
I think you moved one of the tests to
Oh, yeah.
pre-K.
Yeah. We moved it to a different line in the budget. Took the existing, who said that? Did you, Diane? We took the existing money and it was split into two places, so this line, this particular line went down. Another line will go up. Page 2. First R is equipment.
I know,
So when
right,
we
yeah.
back up to the testing, are we leaving it at 1 or 2?
Yes.
Leaving the testing the way it was.
Okay.
And please pipe in on any of these Rs.
Okay, just a quick question, Kim. On the substitutes, I know you explained to us why you budgeted the way you did on that. Is that based on how many were used this year, or does it have anything to do with?
When I did, like over the last 4 years, I did a kind of a, see how many teachers were using the
Yep.
full amount of the
Yep.
days and that type of stuff, and it's progressively increased. And my concern is that we've had quite a few went out on
Long-term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and disability issues and, you know, health
Yep.
issues and so we're using a lot of our sub-lines. And to meet the contract requirements,
Yep.
I went with if
Okay.
everybody, you know,
Yep.
It's not a bucket.
15 days or 20 days.
Why isn't that a bucket?
Because it hasn't been that big issue, and it's you saying we have the data to really make the decision at the moment. And it isn't that, it isn't a huge, I mean, we happen to be in a, I think, an unusual situation this year in terms of substitutes. I mean, like this till today, look at today. Okay?
Yep.
Page 2, unless you had something else, Judy, on page 1?
Nope, you did equipment,
Yep, I asked, and I didn't hear, I'll go this.
computer software.
No, I'm on page 2, the first
On the
at the
next
top.
page.
Equipment.
Okay.
Somebody wanted to revisit on that.
Again, I was just
Why it
wondering-
went down, and there's
yeah.
your reason, equipment for PE, or computer software in NUIA, this was the new quote.
So that's just basically a drop in cost.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we actually have the actual quote, and I think when we did the quote, when we were putting the numbers together, the first time it
Adjustment.
might have all been in like the 100 section, and then we were talking about it again, and we said, well, it should be split, and I think the total got in.
Okay.
Okay, programs in concert, that, it says divide by 0, that means it's a new item. That's the only reason. People wondering, that was the first time we, I think, came up to that divide bar. That's the end of that page. Page 3. We're down on a computer software, and this is that shift from the, right there, that's what she just said, actually, new quote. Also, it's the same test, if you noticed it, was on the other page. Field trips,
I just had mentioned, I think that one was me at some point, and I don't need it now,
It
and it
was.
doesn't affect the budget. Just, I'd be curious to see what all the field trips are, just to see what the kids are doing.
oh, you want a list of what the field trips, or
Yeah,
did you
like-
want to revisit this as far as the
I don't want to
financial?
revisit as far as the budget, but I'd like to kind of know what the field
Okay.
trips are later.
It says science trip to Beach Theater performance in Apple Orchards. You see it in the far right?
That's just some samples.
Example, I'm saying that as examples, not,
Oh, you, no, look, well, that's what they have done in the past.
but my sense is there's more than that.
So, you're asking, could I please get you a list of K through 8, what they've attended on field trips?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You got it, Trish?
Got it.
I'm not gonna do it, mark it off.
Not now, at some point, whenever you have a free minute.
Okay. No minutes are
Secondary
free, I
private?
will charge.
No rush, no rush.
This is,
For future conversation.
this is the big one. If you look over in the left-hand column, 132. Now, we're gonna come back to this at the very end, so I'd like to just hold on that one. This is like on the very last item we're gonna talk about tonight, okay? It's the bucket in case we get a bunch of homeschools that need to go elsewhere. It's not the bucket, but
I do believe,
Tied to it.
give or take a few, I do believe we have approximately 47 homeschooled students, if you look K to 12 in this town.
47.
technically,
Approximately.
we'd be on the same hook for the K-8 if they
So
wanted to go.
that's what we're talking about for numbers of homeschoolers.
That's a lot.
Yes.
Whoa.
There's a reason.
That's
It's got my curiosity peaked there.
Yeah, it is a lot.
In the notes for the, just if this is going to the townspeople in a booklet or something, in the notes for the salary for one teacher as per contract, I believe that's the gifted and talented, so if it just said that instead of just salary for one teacher, where, for gifted and talented. Just write the words, so, because who would know what the 41,100 is?
What page are you on?
So you want
Page
3?
Three.
You don't want me to say salary of a teacher?
Yeah, just put
Say
it in.
Which position it
gifted and
actually is.
talented,
Oh, okay.
or GT.
Okay. Is that it for that page?
Salary for GT teacher, how about that?
Yeah, got it.
Is that it for that page? Page 4? I think you got the explanation for the R on the right.
Yep.
So I think unless there's something else on that page, people? Mary, any more?
Huh?
Any more on this page, page 4?
Page 4, hold on. I think I'm good.
Board committee up there? Do I hear page 5?
Yes, well,
Top of page 5?
I think that one was me. So this is the substitutes, right? So the question I had on this one is, if I understand correctly, there's been a shift, and Kim, I think you
Page 5, first one?
Oh, sorry, second one.
Pages, our pages on all the
I don't have any,
same.
yeah,
Oh.
I'm not-
Oh, I'm
I got nothing
sorry.
for the
You
two.
printed them.
You print it
We
right, they're
printed
not, they're
I'm
not what you're
sorry.
talking
Okay,
about.
so we're on the one that says teacher salary. It was special, salaries of 2 special education teachers as per contract.
Why don't you say the article too?
In Article 3, and it says 39%, so that's, look at that. I'll do the percent, that'll jump your eye to it.
It's the orange one, yeah.
Yep.
Okay? There's the reason up to the right. I think that's what people want to know, what was the reason for such a change.
The first row, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, down to yours, Kevin, the one you wanted to talk about, 81%.
So I want to make sure I understand this correctly, so, and Kim, clarify. So what we've done here is, to cover our bases, we looked at the number of people, the maximum number of sick days they could take, and what the subs would cost. So we're sort of putting in a line item for 100% of sick days being used for subs. So my question is, so going back and looking at some of the data on teacher absences, I know it theoretically can happen, but on average, something like Maine, someone in the it's every district is different. Even if you have some teachers, like the question for me is, I don't think it's realistic for all teachers to use all sick days. Some teachers will use all of them. Some teachers will use none of them. So I'm thinking like a more realistic would be 75% or 50%. I don't think it's necessary to budget all teachers using all sick days.
And this particular one here is.
I mean, theoretically they could, but there's actually was a recent report on this, and actually where they've measured the number of days. Like Rhode Island is the worst. Providence, Rhode Island.
No, New Jersey.
I think Rhode Island just
I
passed
think
them.
Rhode Island is.
But Maine is not is in the middle, and there are huge variations from district to district. My sense here is maybe you have a handful of people do and they get sick, but 100 just seems a lot.
I think most teachers know that if they take a day off, they're gonna pay for it.
Well, exactly. Yes.
Anybody who is taught knows that.
So pick a number.
I'd say I even think 75% is high, but I would.
Yeah, I do.
But that covers us. So
70?
I'd say 50 to 75%. But I mean, is there a ration hill just to cover our bases? Which I think is a good idea. But I know we can guarantee.
It's not going to be used, so.
75% would be 15 days each, right, if you're gonna figure it that way.
So I would suggest if they're gonna go with 75%, then all the places that have done this, there's multiple places, so she's gonna make.
So
Yeah,
that
can
will-
I just say it's substitutes resource with a C? Just, I can't do the incorrect spelling. Sorry.
Sorry, got it.
So we'll reduce. That'll be a decrease in many line items, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Want to go to supplies 10%?
Yeah.
Hold on.
See where the bottom line is.
I'm dead serious
Hold
though.
on, can
No,
we
I
just
don't
get
have
through
problem. I
this?
can go in and modify all of them and have it at 75%.
It was 700 10 years ago and has dropped to 500, and now for 10 years, no increase.
No, it was,
You had
can I
an extra
interrupt you?
100 kids,
I'm
too.
asking-
More, it was definitely because I was still in the classroom when the big drop hit, and I think we were dropped back to like $250 or something?
From
Yeah.
700.
From
300, I think.
And then I think my second year as
low.
principal, so we're talking 4 years ago, I went up to 400, and now we just went up to 500. So we are not where we were 10 years ago.
And you think it's at minimum 3% increase inflation for 10 years is 30%. So that means it basically you'd be at $1,200 right now if no reductions
It's
have been made.
compounded.
It's a lot.
It's compounded, no.
I mean, if we do 10%, so I'd like to revisit this at the end to sort of see where we're at.
Where's it,
The
which?
supplies piece.
Supplies.
The supplies.
I mean, the substitutes going down to 75%.
We agreement 75% for subs.
75%? Yep.
Okay, as long as everybody shows up there.
Okay, so
Thank you.
down to supplies, which is gonna be a supplies resource room. I can't answer that. Tricia, can you answer that? Or Joy, why?
Excuse me? What's the question? I didn't hear it.
The Article 3 supplies resource room was 650 to down 200.
But, because you went from 3 teachers down to 2.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
That's right. So, but
So
you-
that's still a zero.
But you're gonna increase it 3%.
You're gonna increase it
Okay.
5%.
5%.
Well, we're gonna
At the
revisit
moment.
that at the end, right? Maybe
Yes.
go. I'm still think 5's low.
Okay, we're on ed tech salaries. That's just, you want to know why, it's just with the shift.
Next page, yep.
And then this next one, we're gonna change to 75% of the days. So we're on to the R that says substitute benefits. Due to increase, I don't know why that was actually visited R except for an explanation, due to an increase. And I'm gonna, when I hit Article 4, we'll stop now, to make sure that we're all up to date.
Are you asking the
So-
question for the ed tech salary?
So Kim, basically what's gonna happen here is when you go and drop that back down to 75%, the benefits are gonna drop as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm just curious, as far as like the substitutes, is it $65 a day?
That's the average for, we have, we either pay 60, 65, or 75, and it depends on, whether you're just, your education. Or if your teachers are 75, like retired teachers are $75 a day. Those with a bachelor's or master's are 65, and those that went to the high school or
Associates.
substitute, they're 60. So.
How long has it been like that?
Long while.
Quite a while.
Long while.
I'm just curious, do you have a problem getting substitutes with that type of wage?
We have a problem getting substitutes. If it's the wage or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not the ability to find
And it's true,
It's a shallow pool.
it's true in other, it's true in other districts as well.
Yeah.
Substitutes are very difficult.
But that's worth
to find.
looking at. We should compare what we, compared to other, maybe that's the reason they're maybe choosing to go to Massabesic that day instead of coming here. $10 more, you know?
And for what it's worth too, I do think it's
That's a,
worthwhile to pay a little bit more than other districts, so you get the higher quality subs. So that they'll choose to come here versus others. I don't know.
I was just thinking that number that I've heard for many, many years. So,
I agree.
yeah.
okay, so we're down to the R that says supplies, which we know is gonna get tweaked at least 5%. And then you're on, the change from the original budget was this, it says here that's kind of a gray. It doesn't have an R, but it has a director's position contracted 57. And the next one, it's all related to that same change. So, new line, we have a new item, contracted services. Drummond Woodson, for special ed related issues.
Because we were getting those that were just specifically
You want,
This I want you to tell me about.
she's talking about it right now over there.
okay, because it's covering two things. Okay, sorry. What's the question?
The one on contracted services to cover legal costs for Drummond Woodson for special ed.
Right, and that's also where, if we also, and it's also for the 41,500 to cover contracted services for special ed.
The 2-day week. The 2-day
Oh,
week
that, oh, for the contract, for the new
position.
position,
Or
but
2
the
days.
split between the two
Right.
systems. Okay.
But who came up with 43,300?
This is on this
We
page
did-
that you got that page in the packet that told about how the division would be, something that was
Between
worked out
Massabesic and us?
between Massabesic and us, possible ranges of the person that might be hired and what the benefits and so forth would be, what our cost of that would be.
Well, it just said Acton, I don't know.
You'll see on the last sheet on the back where the net effect of this, it's like $22,000.
This sheet, what are you talking about?
Yes. But when we get to here, you'll see the net effect of the positional change. The sharing the position versus having it in-house.
Yeah, but I mean,
So it's 41,500, that's what was our quote from SAT 57. And the balance is what our costs are for Drummond and Woodson for legal costs specifically to special education.
So about 2,000 for special. Are you clear on that, Mary? Not yet?
I mean, I know what it's for, but I'm shocked at the number.
For 2 days a week?
Huh? No, the legal, the
No, you're not reading that. Read the whole
Oh,
thing.
what? To cover legal costs.
That's one piece, and then what else does it say? Contracted services, read the far right. New line to cover the special ed position.
So how much is the legal cost?
Well, what you said, a little over 2,000?
Okay.
Yeah, 1,900, it's all rolled into one.
But it's contracted services. In other places, we have contracted services listed the same way, in lumps, variety of little
Okay.
items. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So, we're still in Article 3. We're down to the supplies, that's another 5% under, and then we're down to summer school transportation.
Anybody remember who brought the R up on that? And why?
Well, I was just wondering why it's,
I believe this is to handle that one special needs to extend the services.
oh, okay, all right.
It is an
That's all you
example
have to
of
say.
what this fellow is saying, what potential costs. Okay?
Kevin, when you
So
say
we're on
supplies,
Article
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
5.
On the, did the board look into there was some lengthy conversation, or some conversation on this $50,000 bus bid for the students? Was there anything looked into further on that as far as that, in terms it wasn't I mean,
We've discussed it a few
Here's
times.
my concern is that it wasn't put out to a bid process, okay?
Yes, it was.
Well,
Wow.
not, I guess not the
proper
type of
bid
bid
process.
process that, I guess, that we're used to, I guess. So how do we know whether we're getting a good deal or a bad deal on this? I mean, we could be getting a very good deal, we could be getting a very bad deal. How do we know for sure? And is it something that, and I don't know, I mean, legally, is it something that can be revisited? Because, I mean, we've always been taught in municipal government that, you know, the integrity of the bid process and the, you know, it's kind of like this sacred thing, which I understand why, completely. So, we talked about it quite a bit maybe not last meeting, but the meeting before, and I didn't know if you guys had looked into that at all. Because, I mean, how do we know if we're getting a good deal or a bad deal?
Okay,
Like Mary said,
first of all, this happened before
$50,000, she
I
wants to be a bus
arrived.
driver.
Can I answer the question?
Yes.
My hands won't hurt.
It was transported in the summer and it was much more costly per diem. So we did put it out to bid, although I wasn't here when that happened. Ken put it out to bid, and this is a very cost-effective way of transporting the student.
You're talking about this, you're talking about the summer.
Three.
You're talking about the summer
How
one,
many
right?
other people?
Dave, I can't answer.
No, that's why I addressed the board.
However, I don't think they can either, but I can say this, because I became aware of this like the second night here, second day in my office, and we've already put into place some procedures that are going to address bidding to make sure it's very transparent.
And
So this doesn't,
yeah, we can talk
no,
later
but this
about it,
doesn't
'cause
happen, it's just right out there in the open. In fact, I had in November, around the 15th, I had somebody from, I don't know, Gunquit or something called and says, when do you put your transportation out to bid again? And I said, well, there's a contract for a couple of years now, and here's me, he wanted to come to the board, I gave him the meeting nights
Yeah,
and
but
all
I
that
think
stuff.
what Dave is saying is, why can't we say, okay,
Reopen
that's
it?
null and void because it was done improperly?
Well, I can't say it was done improperly, I don't know,
You don't know.
I don't know.
But
I'm only hearing hearsay.
you could do investigative work for us
I-
and find out if it was done properly. It definitely wasn't done properly because I never got it at the board level.
Okay.
So that right there is improper to me. And if we could say, we're sorry, it wasn't done properly, and we get the legal advice, and he's got this year now, but whoever wants to bid for the next year, you know, now open it up for the next year.
Can we
And
put
do it
this-
yearly.
Can we put this on
On our board
board
agenda.
agenda for next
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday instead of now?
I think you need to have some answers.
Yeah.
Because somebody is going to ask about this.
We're going to address this through the board process next Tuesday, regular monthly board meeting.
Okay.
We'll get the detail and go over that.
Is this the last year of that bid, or is it
I don't
another
know.
year after this?
No, another year after this is what I believe.
Okay,
Okay, let's move on.
so I believe we're on co-curricular stipends, and this was an increase. I believe we added the new stipend position for, I can't remember now, what was it?
Writing.
Oh,
Writing or something.
The writing
Writing.
club, but it's
Writing.
also a little bit of increase in
The step.
two of the lines or something.
Right.
there was the Lego and, yeah, we had a couple.
Oh, yeah, the spring Lego stipend.
And the benefits associated with that line. Okay. So down to extracurricular that was co-curricular stipends, excuse me. Now we're down to extracurricular stipends.
But it's all stipend.
And I think Mary just
Same.
addressed
We
both of them.
Yeah, we adjust soccer and baseball.
Okay, that completes Article 5. We're on Article 6. The first item, council salaries.
Okay,
That was an R?
that was me. What I wanted to know is, and just like, you know, with declining enrollment and everything, and, you know, you hate that it's a person, but it always is a person. You know, if we could, reduce it, just like I was talking about reducing music, art, and gym, if we had to find cuts anywhere. It's also, you know, this line too.
Well, just a second.
And mostly because we didn't know what you did, but the counselor did for our children. Because the history of it was, we initially brought in a counselor in order to help the high schools, to have a person here at Acton for our high school students. This goes back a ways. And that's how the counselor first came in. In fact, I don't even think we called it a guidance counselor at the time. And so now it has morphed into other things. So I didn't know what this position.
The proposal I put forth is a proposal I'd like to stand with. I do not wish to address any other cuts in terms of staff at this time, but you guys have obviously the prerogative to do that. But at this point, where I am in my tenure here and where I'm trying to go,
And
I don't think it's the right move to.
And I think too that, you know, like you say, it's not the same position that it was when it was first put in place, in that now the guidance counselor actually goes into the classrooms and does things with them, and somebody else wants to speak.
In anticipation of this, I had Bess make a list of what she does do, just so that you will know, and she documented everything that she does with our kids in school and out of school. So.
Well, I guess my thing is, you know, oh, you do have the high school piece? You do the high school piece. I just saw a liaison to...
I work with the high school counselors. I'm not solely responsible for them, but I talk to the high school probably once a week.
About our Acton kids.
Yeah.
And help with the transition. Now, I certainly can go in great detail with you, Mary, or with the board if they want to.
Jeez.
I can, but, you know, for any of the job descriptions, you know, because I do know not only what the classroom instruction that's going on, but the other things that, you know, may have to even be in an executive session to clarify things that happen that she's supposed to do. I don't, you know, we've had a full-time guidance counselor for as long as I can remember.
Right, but we had 330 kids, so I'm just saying.
But I think we have to look at the fact
timeline.
too that we have now over 50% that are free and reduced lunch, which also means that more kids are having issues and problems at home than maybe we had a few years back. I don't know.
Dave wants to say.
David?
I think Patty was first.
Well, I can
I'm sorry.
honestly say that there are a lot of changes in the children now, in that you have a lot of households that are either broken or that have both parents working. And that really impacts the kids. And Bess comes in our classrooms and she does lessons with the kids so that they can learn to deal with and handle, or at least know how to talk about what they're going through. And that, to me, alleviates a lot of problems all the way up through, and it helps their education, because then they can focus on what they need to
Okay, my other thing is, because we would like, at least I know some of us, would like to bring in a foreign language. And when you start wanting to bring in other programs, you have to juggle everything that you have. So that's one of the things.
She's every other week in our classrooms, which means that you could easily alternate. I mean, there are ways we can do it, but she does a lot with the kids. A lot.
Are you bilingual? Just a question. You never know, you can hit.
I'm not bilingual.
Yes.
You know, the American family is broken, at least not the same American family that we all knew. Number one. Number two, there's more violence. There's more dysfunction. And I was just asking if the counselor does a lot of grief counseling, and he said, yes, they do a lot of grief counseling. Even though the amount of children in the school is pretty much stable, I think the environment outside is worsening, at least compared to 10 years ago. And I think not having a full-time one is really not a good idea. I mean, it's a good idea. Having a part-time one is not a good idea.
An important piece of data too, I think that's part of this conversation, is that one of the things we know with kids who succeed, some of the dropout data, is one of the things that separate kids who are successful from those who aren't. Not even going into with the school violent issues, where we know that there are a lot of kids who have serious needs and issues that can, you know, implode. If a kid has one adult that they can connect with in the school building, that can make all of the difference. And a lot of times, because of the social emotional needs of the students, it's not the teacher. And a lot of times it can be the person who is most equipped and trained to deal with the social, emotional needs of students.
And if that
oftentimes it's the
person
guidance
can
counselor.
get that lonely student to talk, you're absolutely right. And those are the ones that are, in retrospect, are the ones that go in and shoot the whole school up, are the lonesome ones that are out there being
And I think
isolated
I
and
agree.
marginalized.
And I think Mary Questions is a good one too, though, in the sense of, I think there's a lot of, it's interesting, the past couple weeks, I've had two people ask me, what does, at the elementary level a guidance counselor do? Because I think a lot of the perception of guidance counselors at the high school is college placement, but so much more than that.
Well, that was the other thing.
Yeah.
We didn't know what you did. Now I have a list. But the only way to bring it up is to bring
Talk
it up.
about it.
That's
right.
And now I can justify a position if someone says, what is this guidance counselor? I have all the answers now.
Yeah. I can tell you from a parent's standpoint, as well as a child care provider, the number of kids that I know personally that the current guidance counselor, previous guidance counselors, have made a huge difference in impacting these kids' lives. And when I see a child come into my child care and they're all excited and I say, what are you so happy about? Or, they're excited, and it's because it's a special day that they get to go have lunch with the guidance counselor, with another child that she's trying to help with bullying and other issues that, are occurring that she sees happening. And these kids don't even realize what she's doing. She's just making it fun for them. And them to feel special and to feel included. And I know personally, from my own standpoint as a parent, she has helped my kids many times. And I've also seen her with other kids on problems that they didn't feel comfortable going to other parents or teachers or whatever, that they did feel comfortable enough from her coming into the classrooms and having that one-on-one with her, that they felt comfortable they could approach her with the problems and that she would handle it in a way that didn't make it worse for them. So, I mean, I see a huge reason to keep a full-time guidance counselor.
David?
In a small school that is obviously still offering full services for the children of the town, you're forced many times to wear several hats. And I think this is a classic example too of, where she gets into the classroom a lot more, I think, than what you see in a lot of other guidance services in some bigger schools. I know for a fact, not in the smaller schools maybe, but in the bigger ones. Where we don't have, I see this because I link it into my science as well, where we don't have a health program here like Sanford does. Sanford has a very comprehensive health program. A lot of what she does kind of transcends naturally just because of the need into the health that we don't have, the health program that we don't have. So one of the things that I see is that hat, kind of weaving in some of those healthy habits and all of that I'll be quite honest with you, it's one of the few things I see in Sanford that is a program that is much more comprehensive. So there's that. There's also here, just because we're a little school, again, doesn't mean that we don't have crisis and need for crisis intervention. And as we know, I mean, you look at, did you ever think, people have been around for a while, you ever see surveillance cameras in Acton School, And Bess is a real big part of the guidance department, whoever it was, even before Bess, was involved in a lot of this crisis intervention component of our school that seems to be ever growing and growing and growing, unfortunately, because of the need of it in society.
Okay, so are we ready to move on from the guidance now position?
I'd like to say one thing now.
Okay.
Also, I just want to kind of piggyback on Stacy. As far as I was thinking when I was hearing that to actually drop a guidance counselor, that was the first thing I thought of was bullying prevention. Because I think that is huge in this day and age with social media. And I know we're talking elementary school, but let's face it, these kids are definitely on Facebook. They're on the social media piece. And just having a guidance counselor go into classrooms and discuss prevention of that and not bullying each other in any way, shape, or form, that can make a huge difference if we saved one child from suicide or anything like that because of this. Because it used to be when they'd go home, When my kids would go home from school, if they had a bad day, it was left at school, but it's not that way anymore for these kids. They go home and it's with them forever, and they can't get away from it. And it's been some pretty drastic, horrible things out there. So I would hate to see a guidance counselor leave this school. I would definitely be disappointed in that. I think that we can cut costs, but I hate to see it with the emotional well-being of the kids. I just don't think that's a place where we should cut costs at all.
Thank you, Holly.
Bob, quick question. I'm glad Mary brought the question up because I think I looked down the road. Not that we're lacking things to do, but this has been a nice conversation. Just kind of hear what people do. Just it'd be nice to hear more of these kinds of things for different positions throughout the year because things are always changing, and it just gives it. Just listening to some of these stories gives a nice sense of what happens during the day, which we don't get a lot of. So. It'd be nice to have more of these kinds of conversations and data.
That's why you have a consent agenda.
What?
That's why you have a consent agenda, so you don't spend the time on all that stuff and you can get to the other stuff.
To these kinds of things, so.
Correct.
Exactly.
I appreciate the question and the conversation, thanks.
Okay. So
We're at programs. And actually, Bess, why don't you talk about this one? No, actually, no, because she's actually looking out for the position long-term, because she weren't in the position, but she could speak to this. Go ahead, Beth.
So the previous counselors sought supervision from a professional mental health counselor to talk about students, talk about issues, brainstorm in confidential manner. I happened to be trapped in a car with another guidance counselor for 2 hours a day, so I don't need to seek those seek those services. My husband pays dearly for it. But so that's what that line is for.
And it was 2,000, and it's just basically been a hold, and she really doesn't need the 1,000 for that matter. But she's afraid if she should leave or whatever, that this would kind of get lost in thought. That's the reason the 1,000 was in there. My feeling is, if people here all remember this, that if something should happen to this situation, the commute, then we might need to add the $1,000 back in, but I think it could probably come out, is what I'm trying to say.
I think my husband would like this stipend.
So I would recommend you scratch that.
Bob is recommending that
If Bess, you can support that also.
To do what?
Take the $1,000 out of it.
Take
It's not
that.
going to get spent, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but what if she wants to see another professional
She is.
besides?
We can't.
She may be counseling.
Sometimes that doesn't work.
I am hoping that the relationship with development Massabesic over time may allow us avenues there.
Okay, so shall we scratch that? He's recommending that we scratch that $1,000, and
If
Beth
something
is
should change, we can
supporting
another
his
year add again, we'll
recommendation
figure
at
out
this
something for
point.
the year.
So we're just removing it all together.
Everybody hears it's recorded for posterity. Okay, we're on, still on Article 6, we're on the,
Page 10?
well, page 10 for us, but they printed theirs out at home, so it's a different numbering system. We're on the professional salaries, the 140% one. Now, this is the PD discussion. We were talking about in the strategic plan lot earlier, before the meeting. And we were planning some pretty big changes as far as organizing what we do in school. But that other thing we talked about with regards to the staff now, I've told them we're looking at potentially increasing the number of student days next year. We're going to talk about it Monday more. I shared with these people during the strategic plan meeting. Basically, let people know, warrant finance people. Currently, state law requires 175 student days, okay, at a minimum. You can go above that. Sanford is changing what they're doing in their calendar next year, or at least they're proposing to change what they're doing in their calendar. They're getting rid of their teacher workshop days, and they're going to go with an early release day 1 hour early every Wednesday. Well, because our high school kids transport on the same buses, we're going to have an issue. So we said, gee, maybe we can make that our professional development time, some of our professional development time. It figures out to about 35 hours of lost instruction time throughout the entire year. So we were talking about increasing the number of student days from 175 to either 177 or 178. Teacher contract days are 181. This would have no impact on the teacher salary line or whatever. So we could actually, if we were to do this, what we talked about, we could actually increase the number of student days to compensate for the 35 hours in lost instructional time and have a zero change in the budget. That just came to light really in the last 2 weeks. The first they heard of it was 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. And we're gonna have a discussion further that next week. Because of that, if we are to go that route, we can probably reduce this line a little bit. But you have another problem with this. It's a problem. It's not a problem. It's just a challenge. It's a challenge. Yes. You have teachers that are basically one person per grade, essentially. They have no place to talk with someone else at that grade level and so forth. Part of this was so they can get out of this place and see other schools and have discussion with other professionals regarding that. That's the reason that's in here, in particularly related where we're trying to go with the strategic plan. That's why the number's gone up about $9,000. I'm okay with, I think Trish is, we're okay with cutting that a little bit if we get to go with these release things. So, and
When will Sanford know?
Well,
they passed the calendar in April? March or April?
Superintendent in his weekly address 2 weeks ago stated it in his weekly address to the public, and
Right, he stated it as a proposed.
right.
But the vote.
So I emailed him, and he said it hasn't quite been finalized. It's got to go through the teacher something or other, and also their contract.
Teachers
whatever,
union, yeah.
And then something else with the.
And the
something
school
else.
committee.
I think I always had to present the calendar to you in April.
Okay, that's why I'm thinking April.
And that meant Sanford had to be done in March.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
So it's
You're
any
right.
time. It's any time now.
Yeah.
Comment about that? Just
absolutely.
This is the other one that is I'm passionate about. Is one, you got the supply lines, which are directly in the hands of kids. I think increasingly what's going on in education, it's asking teachers to do things they were never trained to do, like standards-based learning, proficiency-based learning, those sorts of things. I think there's a general myth out there that once teachers come out of the teacher prep schools, they know everything they need to know about how to teach well, and that is so not the case. It's such a complex endeavor that the teacher education needs to continue. So I think still the teacher education we're doing in schools is still woefully inadequate just to provide the support they need, particularly with all the changing demands. So long story short, I would just sort of say just keep it. Because I'd leave it alone because I think already it's not enough. So I'd even advocate more, but that's time and that's so I would just say don't touch it. But that's just my opinion.
Anybody else?
I agree with them.
Then we move on.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're still on Article 6. I'm on page 11. I'm under the supplies. We already know what to do there. And we know about the next one. We have a colored one. I'm not supporting this $1,500 to increase for summer work for this particular position.
Wait, where are you?
Yeah, I'm lost.
On Article 6,
New line
ed tech
item?
salaries,
Oh,
Okay.
what was the percent on it?
0.
No percent.
Oh,
Says it's a new line item.
salary. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that didn't make sense.
Beginning is spelled wrong.
Well, that didn't make sense because on page 1, it said something about the same thing.
No, it's in a different area. It's a different article. That's the reason it's in this place.
Just a clarification too.
Mhm.
Is this going to these line items? They go to the town, right? I just think.
This whole thing goes to the top.
Yeah, I think we need to remove names.
Yes.
Absolutely. See that, Kim?
You
got
could
the
just
name,
say
you got the
computer ed
person's
tech.
name.
Gail's name, Gail's name out of that.
And the primary reason for that is
because the
once-
comments here on page 1, the second one, it says increased time from computer ed tech, and then you go to my page 10, which is other people's. some
Which
other-
line though? What's the line?
The second one in the comments,
Oh,
first
yeah.
page, it says increased time for computer ed tech. Was that the same where it said in the notes section for ed tech salary, the 1,500?
No, that shouldn't have said that in the comments on page 1.
Oh,
That should be crossed out.
what should that say? Because it's
That's just a salary increase. Just
Okay, but is that?
step increase.
isn't that just, yeah,
I
sorry.
think-
The yellow was a
Good catch, though.
decrease in ed techs to 6 hours.
And the
So
primary
I don't
reason
know
is,
what happened there.
on this is, I think as we flesh out the strategic plan, this may come back in another year, but at this point, I can't support that.
So, for clarification, you're talking about not supporting additional hours on the prior to
Beginning
school
of
starting?
school.
Right. But right now, we have an Ed Tech 3 in both the library and in the computer labs,
Mhm.
where they are solely responsible for...
That's not what this is.
Okay, so do
This
they
is
have
an
enough
addition.
time?
This is an addition.
Right, but I'm asking for page 1?
Before the school year starts.
Right. I understand
Yeah.
that on page 11. I'm asking about page 1. Was the page 1 reflecting the
Yeah,
longer
what is
time
that?
for them because they take students in?
2 ed tech
I don't know
technicians
which
to
line it
provide
is. You
direct
have to
service.
ask.
You're talking about
First page.
the ed tech salaries
First line.
increase?
On Article 2, regular and secondary instruction.
Tricia, I'm
Yeah.
going to address the ed tech in a minute.
Okay.
On the back of the last page.
Okay.
But going back to page 11, we're crossing that one out, right?
Yeah, I gotta wait a minute, because I'm like, Kim's been doing adjustments, and I don't know if she's got a problem.
She's got problems.
Oh, come on now. Did you lose it?
She wishes it was a
I'm keeping track of
PC,
everything, but
Not a-
yes, I am.
not a Mac.
We need to give Kim some time to
I
finish
think,
that?
I'm not
Well,
sure.
we could still discuss things.
I have a supplies thing, I've done some math, do we want to talk about that?
No,
No,
let's
we're
go
just
on to
gonna do
something
it. We don't
else.
need to have math on it.
Well,
We're gonna do it. We don't need
I'll
math.
keep track so that she's caught up. I'll keep track of where we're at. So we're down on the,
So what's the final decision on this now?
I'm advocating, my proposal has this coming out, that's why it's 0. So when we get to the back sheet, you'll see that this $1,500 is reflected that comes out.
So it'll be a minus 100%.
Now, I remember at the beginning, I asked
Yes.
people, I said, present your budget the way you want, what you think. I want the board to know. I'm at this point saying I don't believe that's the right thing to spend. If they wish to add it in, they can add it in. So my proposal has that coming out.
Okay, so then, the ed tech benefits underneath that.
That would be adjusted because
That would
of the
be
same thing.
adjusted as well.
That's why it's colored, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put a box on this, because unless you guys want to add back in, I want to make sure that there's no change there, correct? Are you okay with it being 0?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had there's an R for the one between that, the IT manager salary. I don't have any
I
questions.
don't remember why.
I don't know.
It just seems like it's a step increase.
Oh, no, that's that, you had an R on all the admin line. Remember we talked about the SMART goals?
Oh, the smart
right.
goal.
Contract
That's
problem,
right.
and
Yeah, okay.
then it may or may not happen that way.
Gotcha. Good.
Okay, so I think we're on Article 7.
Yep.
I'm on page 12.
Can I just stop this
Yes,
for,
ma'am.
for a minute? Because with our norms, we had said by 8 o'clock we would do a check-in.
good
to
job.
see where everybody is.
I can't even see the clocks from here.
So I would like to do a check-in
Yes, good.
because in the interest of time, where we want to move forward for the rest of the evening.
Your call.
What's the?
No, one of the things was we would,
That's right.
we would say we'd add a half hour to, so we go to 8:30, and then at 8:30 we decide what to do.
I just beefed it up half hour, sorry.
You know what?
I
saw it somewhere.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we talked about, our meetings were gonna begin at 6 and end at 8. When it came 8 o'clock,
It might be on that sheet
we would
that
have
he
general
has.
consensus as to whether or not we wanted to stop where we are, or if we wanted to continue on, for the amount of 30 more minutes. That was
Yes.
what we had discussed.
So I'd like to make a
motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we do a consensus to see if people want to continue on for a half hour or stop.
Go get her done.
Second.
What did he say?
He said,
Get her
"Let's
done."
That, you're right. I mean, we're on a roll now.
No, but we have to vote, so.
Yeah,
Do
you guys
okay.
can-
We don't need to, we got it, no.
You know?
Yeah. But do we need to vote?
Yeah, she
Consensus?
made a
Okay.
motion.
Okay,
I seconded it. Oh, no, Mary
I
seconded it.
second it.
okay, so the motion is that we
To-
continue
for
To go
another,
for
eight.
30 more minutes.
for 30 more minutes. And then we will.
Decide from there.
Then we
Okay.
will stop.
No, we'll decide, no, wait a minute. You said,
You
check
decide
it again,
Then
and
we'll
she said
decide
stop,
again.
then we'll decide
I think that
again.
was in the original notes, to
Yeah.
decide again.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but anyway, okay? Everybody all set with that to continue on?
Can you finish tonight?
Probably.
Remember those midnight ones, Tom?
No, we're saying 30 minutes, we're not saying 8:30.
Yeah, but,
Okay, let's,
okay, we
let's
already,
keep moving.
we already spent 2 minutes on that.
Okay,
Article 7,
Yeah.
Article 7.
legal, professional, purchase professional services. This is the legal line that we talked about earlier tonight.
And this one is for
This is,
negotiations.
that's correct, that's where it's gonna end up. But maybe, hopefully we won't use them at all. Okay, the next one is, we're on Article 8.
See?
So that's gonna be in the new bucket?
No, this is,
On the line item.
in the years that they go to negotiations, they usually add some addition to the legal if they should bring legal counsel. In the past, we've already talked, we're hoping we don't even have to use them.
Sorry, I feel like I'm in the way.
No.
Okay, so we're on Article 8,
Article 8.
and there'll be some changes here in my proposed budget. Substitute. Okay, you saw that you had an R revisited under the support salary. Somebody had an R, and I guess it does not contain a line for substitutes for the office manager. I guess was the R. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
because of the reduced number of people actually in the office, if she is out for a day,
You decide.
I can't support that argument, reduced number of people in the office, from what you had in prior years. This is sufficiently staffed for this school.
but if she is out,
Yeah,
we don't have that backup person.
well,
We
I'm
can
back
ma-
tomorrow.
We can manage.
Mike, did you have a comment?
No, I think we
Mike
have.
covered it the other day. He did
I
a
ran
good
the
job.
office Friday last week.
How'd you do?
Those numbers don't drop because of that. so.
you would have to have a substitute person in mind for that, right?
Well,
have-
a substitute.
A substitute.
Right.
That could step into this position just for one day.
I think we
You
have
can?
enough staff. on
Well, I
this
do too, but
to
I'm
cover
just
that.
saying, you know. Yeah.
I don't think that's my, but it's up to the committee.
I trust your judgment.
I think we're all set there.
Okay, professional benefits. This is the instructional coach position that's added. Strategist, I guess you could call it, coach. And where's the position? Did we miss that? Oh, it's on the prior page. On my prior page. I didn't have an R, that's why I missed
Very
it.
first
It's a
one.
color.
Yeah, it's a color.
There's the,
These were not in the, what we talked about before.
right, this is my proposed. Okay. And then the same with the divide, all those items are related to the instructional coach. You do have an R for
Wait,
MEPers.
I just want the wording to say instructional coach in case this all goes to the town, because it looks like a different person.
Good call.
You catch that, Kim?
I'm
Okay.
changing it right now.
There's also one
And Kim,
down.
there were no additional changes in the time that you were doing whatever it is you were doing?
I was listening, believe me.
The only the thing that we were on was make sure we remove the name from the,
I already did that.
okay.
Yep, Gail's gone.
Okay, you have an R under MEPers directors.
I think somebody just wanted to know what that meant.
Okay, there it
MEPers
is.
requires MEPers expenses to correlate with a position or director, teacher, ed tech.
Right, I think somebody wanted to know what the MEPers was. Seems like that came up late. I mean, we'd already had MEPers before, but I remember somebody asking it that night.
What the,
And that's on the glossary now.
but is this like a stipended,
No.
No.
just what you pay?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
the town has to match
Okay.
2.65.
I got it.
Whether it's a teacher, an ed tech, or director, Meadows requires it broken in 3 different.
Yep.
Okay, this is the office line. So Trish,
Yes.
we have a a $300 increase in supplies with an R here. We put an R because Kevin had R. Do you want the 5% here too, Kevin?
Where is it? I'm not seeing it.
Office supplies.
Article 8,
What page are we on?
this is page 15.
Oh, supplies for the front office?
No, bottom, no?
No, right here.
That's probably okay.
Oh, yes.
They they printed their own color.
This one already has an increase, right?
Correct.
I just leave it. Well,
He's talking about the zero
That's
one.
the
I know, but we
front
put an R any place.
I would include this in the one I'm gonna talk about, because I'm gonna make another proposal.
Okay, so this will be at least a 5% right now.
No, I'll tell you my proposal in a second.
So you want another 5%?
Yeah, because he said include it as if it was the others.
Thank you, Kim. You're the best.
Okay, now we're on Article 9,
Almost
and
done.
this is just,
Transportation.
I don't know the man's name.
Mr.
Will.
Williams.
Will.
Yes,
This is the transportation, Article 9 is the transportation line, and this,
Yes.
you reading the detail there?
I'm reading it right now as we
Okay.
speak.
I'll wait in case there's a question.
So this is signed for next year already?
Yeah.
This
Yes.
is
Third year.
third
Because
year.
it's a
This will be, next year will be our third year, and then we'll be
We'll be
able to look at.
negotiating it next year. Through a fair bid process.
I have no doubt.
Any questions there, Will?
No, I don't, not right now. It's a lot of money.
Yep.
Gas is cheaper now.
Well,
We signed
the
a
contract was
It was
signed
last
2
week.
years ago, yeah.
It was last week.
It
Yeah.
isn't gonna be cheap very
No.
long.
No,
Okay.
that's true.
Okay, let's go
Article
on.
10. This is,
I have a quick question. The late bus, is that something that we just stopped this year, or has that been
We
something
stopped
that
it
last year?
Well, it stopped last year after a month of running, I think.
Yeah, it was.
We
Was
did
it
a,
being utilized?
we did a run, we did a test,
Pilot.
we did a pilot on it to see how many kids were using it, and
Yeah.
it wasn't getting used at all. Yeah.
Maximum of 3.
Oh.
what was the cost for that?
$100.
5,000 total,
Uh,
right? For
yeah.
the
It
extra?
was $184.
I mean, not this year, but it was prior. So how much?
I think it was $184 a month.
I think we put fine.
This may play into the strategic plan, that's why I asked.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, salary of facility, fact that you had an R there?
That might have been me again. I'm questioning, as always, I know this building is wonderfully clean, and it always affects a person when I speak, because there's always one person for each of these jobs. But again, I think 3 custodians to clean this building is a lot, because it's really 3 custodians plus a facility director, so 4 people maintaining and operating this, when we all know when there was 330 kids, we had like 1.5 people or something. So I wonder about this line, and if we could do something about it. But I always seem to be the only voice on this. I don't know, you've been here a few months, have you seen anything?
I've made my proposal for this year.
You what?
I've made my proposal for this year.
That's it,
This is his proposal.
This is my
for this
proposal
year.
for this year.
this year.
This year.
I mean, because it's not just the salary at 145,000. You've got, you know, another benefits line. The medical insurance is 51,000. So when you add up, you know, 4 people and all that, it's a lot of money to keep this building clean. And I think it should be
Something you
done.
wish to look into.
I don't think we have enough
We've talked
information.
about
Compare in terms of square footage or square meters per, for the school, how does it come out?
We did talk about this last year. I thought we were in specs.
I mean, basically, this is what you've supported in the past. And it's what we do as a department.
And Will is new to you, you might want to introduce yourself to him.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Basically, we have a director, we have 1 full-time day custodian, and we have 2 full-time night custodians. In 2012, as you know, if you remember, we did reduce our summer hours from 40 hours a week down to 32, with minimal impact to service to the school. Basically, I would define our custodians as one of 2 classifications of custodians, one being a service custodian, which, as you see, assists staff with requests, activity setups, health-related calls, which is glorifying it. daily cleaning, assisting with maintenance, snow removal, etc. A service custodian performs many tasks outside of daily cleaning. A production custodian would be a type of person that would come in and do exclusively cleaning. I consider all three of our custodians to be service custodians. Acton School serves as a focal point of our community. Many after-school activity and evening events take place here at the school. Again, the service custodians are the people responsible for helping and assisting with these setups, a lot of these events that we have valued. The square footage requirements that Will spoke about just a second ago, each one of the guys is responsible for approximately 1,500 square feet per day.
15,000.
What does that mean in terms of the standards of care that we take? It means the level of care would be dramatically impacted if we were to reduce the number of people we have in place in order to keep our building safe and clean. Our building contains 20 bathrooms, a locker room, a nurse station, and we also care for a kitchen and cafeteria area. These are all top priority areas. We also save money in the long run as we extend the life expectancy of things such as floor finishes and carpet in the classrooms. Frequency of care is key to maximize the lifespan of these items. With a reduction in staffing, safety would also be compromised in a number of ways. Less frequency of disinfection in high contact areas would be my first concern. The school nurse, Carol, and I have quite frequent conversations. We get notices from CDC in regards to cleaning techniques. We've been successful in the past because we've had the staff to support the needs. The next safety item would be our employees themselves. We are at the top of the workman's comp ratings, our department is. Injuries lifting and moving items, slips and strains can be greatly reduced by working in teams. Our record for safety speaks for itself because we have preventative approaches in place. Our responsibilities, the introduction of pre-K program will impact our workload in the coming year. Moving and placing staff in different areas of the building will require all hands on deck and strong communication in order to facilitate the changes. A reduction in staffing again would limit our ability to promote and support outside activities such as PTG events, athletic events, Odyssey of the Mind, etc. Many programs which we all strongly value. The extended school year program also impacts the needs of our department. It narrows the window of opportunity we have in order to do things in the building such as painting and floor refinishing. Again, it's all possible with all hands on deck. I'd urge any of you to look at other schools and health facilities that have suffered the effects of reductions. I have visited other schools, roughly the same age as Acton, and have seen it firsthand. The result is poor floor care, cleanliness issues, general overall care of the building suffers, higher rates of absenteeism for staff and students, etc. Not a choice I'm willing to support for Acton. Quality employees. The Acton school custodial staff in place, in my eyes, is cut from a different mold. You know, one of them in the past year has received a state award. It's based on self-motivation and caring about the wellness of our students. One of my own goals, which I've been working towards, is online training in order to reduce outsourcing of technical services whenever possible. I am confident in the long run this will aid in reducing costs and keep our money where it should be, and that's educating our kids. So I look at what we have in front of us. We have choices. We can look into outsourcing services. This would mean a restructure and closing the building down early in order to have a vendor come in and clean. Schools contracting cleaning services are usually much larger districts than Acton and only contract a certain portion of their buildings. These areas are closed to the public during cleaning hours. For example, Thornton Academy outsources some of their cleaning. They have a large campus and only contract for certain portions of their facility. We can reduce the custodial staffing along with agreeing to reduce the standards and availability of building use. There will be less positive feedback on the condition of our building, and it will show immediately. So my recommendation is to continue to advocate for the program we currently have in place with the expectations of a well-kept building and attractive grounds. This includes the consistent updating of building systems, equipment, security, etc. Reduction in current staffing would greatly impact our ability to move forward to maintain and improve what we currently have in place. Our staff works hard, takes pride in our school, and represents dollars well spent. Attached to this is an article that I pulled off the internet about one facility that went through some reductions and saw dramatic impacts almost immediately. The other thing that I have for you, and Mary mentioned, geared towards enrollment. And one thing that keeps coming up is historical data. This goes back, and I highlighted a few things on it for you to look at and consider. I went back to 2009, but I want you to look primarily at the past 4 years.
Andy, can you, what's this total square footage?
44,000 square feet. If you look back at the numbers from 2012 to 2015, those 4 years, the enrollment has not changed that dramatically. If you go down to the bottom of that sheet and you look at from 2010 right up through to 2015, it shows you the, you know, over time, yes, it has increased, but the budget, the request for this year's budget comes in at $13,395 less than the current year.
Just one question. What opportunities do the people have for in-service education?
We have several things that we do in-house, like our chemical hygiene training, for example, is done in-house by Mr. Cody. Bloodborne pathogen training is also done in-house. We have online training available. This year, 3 of the guys went up to Colby College up in Waterville for a statewide seminar. Vendors all over the state go, do demonstrations. There's a number of training programs that the staff does participate in.
If I were to walk through here at a time when they're cleaning classrooms and stuff, would they be properly gloved and everything for,
yes,
for their duties?
Yes.
If I can speak to that just a second, don't ask me how I ended up with the title of chemical hygiene officer, but I am here, and that's a long story.
Teacher.
That's yeah, and don't worry, Miss England, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm not, no stipend. I saw him looking at me like looking at the budget, and all of the custodians, including Andy, have to be. Technically have to be trained. The Maine State Labor Board kind of dictated it, and then we had, I was glad to hear that when we had the insurance, the
audit,
insurance audit, that the auditor told me that, you know, they rarely go into schools where this is being implemented, and that all the people that are dealing with these things, i.e. the custodial staff, are trained and able to do the things appropriately and with that in the way that makes them happy. So, you know, all of this staff has been trained in that way, and it doesn't work like that always in all the schools. And I love the way, you know, you see them respond in that way, in that safe, professional manner because of it. So that's a good example of what you're talking about.
Again, if you're trying to add programs for students, you have to look for where you can try to get money, not just by adding the program, the person, the medical insurance, the supplies, but to, you know, find where could we take from in order to put a program in. So I guess this year is not the year for foreign language.
It could be if you want to add it in. Okay.
Mr. Neal's got it.
Well, no, I just, Mary seems to be hung up on that, but, you know, I kind of lean towards Andy's, you know, presentation, and I've been kind of closely watching her over the years, you know, especially the maintenance, and I can't figure out how do you have any ideas of how you could turn around and cut staff and still, you know, you think you could turn around and clean this whole school and
well, I was a cleaning person at one point in my life, and I know I could clean. Yes, I could clean a lot. Yeah. Don't worry.
I think there's another issue too that hasn't been put on the table, and that's the fact that if you were to cut somebody out, you have somebody here working by themselves at a time, and I'm not sure that's a good situation for anybody. In other words, you know, we're in a situation where we're marginal. You know, it's always good to have, in a situation like this, at least 2 people in the building.
No, but you could also, when you have 4 people, you could use a different, you know, method of, you know, when they start work, and maybe have 2 part-timers in the evening or something, you know what I'm saying? You could do something different. I'm just saying, if you work the hours.
The only thing here is that you have an institution that has food facilities. They do the major cleaning in the kitchens and stuff. You really want to have people who are diligent and are expert at what they do. Child comes in vomiting, and norovirus or whatever.
Norovirus, Jesus, no, please. Don't even bring that up. Don't even bring that up.
I'm a hospital epidemiologist as well. And you need to have people come in and clean that up correctly. They ought to know how to do it, what agents to use to clean it up, how to dress when they do it. All of those things are in today's world necessary when you have little children especially, and when you have a kitchen and supplying food for a large number of people.
Just as I just did a little research, just for the main, they have sort of like with custodial staffing recommendations, and they have different levels of cleanliness that you want.
Absolutely.
Level 1 is hospitals; it's spotless. They say sort of to receive sort of a level 1 cleaning that would be spotless that you might find in a hospital. It's 10 to 11,000 square feet per 8-hour shift. Level 2, which they sort of say is, you know, a high standard for areas that include kindergarten areas, food service areas, things like that. It's 18 to 20,000. So we're kind of in the level 2 range, because then the next range is not as clean as 28 to 31,000. So we're kind of in the level 2 range, given kindergarten area, food service, those sorts of things. So it sounds like it's in the ballpark.
It's in the ballpark.
A lot of that same research I did on the square footage requirements and stuff, when you get below that level 2, it really goes downhill quickly. They start talking about like vacuuming rooms every other day. The high contact areas are not even in there. So I mean, you know, kind of worked hard to get things to where we're at and don't want to go backwards with it. I want to keep going.
Okay, any further discussion on this one?
All right, I'm going to be the timekeeper tonight, but in the interest of time.
Already? Oh, wow.
I would like to I propose that we kind of stop right here. I know I'd like to take some time and digest some of this information. I'm not sure how everybody else is feeling.
You just have
at this
one
point.
article, and it's nutrition, which is, it's just nutrition. And then we can go.
Do we have a recommendation for? Do we want something for this line? I don't know if we finished it. I want to make sure we give it to.
Yeah.
Article
We didn't have any
contracted
Rs.
food
Oh,
services.
3 hours.
I guess we did have an R.
3 hours for nutrition.
You want to just go over those 3 Rs and then be done?
And I think I've given you the definitions. I think a lot of them were just questioned what they were, and I put the information on the right.
I would really encourage people, if we can get through the Rs, my summary is going to take all of about 3 minutes.
Okay.
You can hang on. You can hang on.
5 more minutes.
So,
Okay.
Speak fast.
So, did we do all the?
okay, so we're on my paper, we're on page 16. And I'm going to just do these rather quick. Overtime was a 50% decrease. It was an R. Why this much? Andy seems to think it's okay. He proposed it.
Yep, when I proposed it, it was before it started snowing, but I can make it work.
Okay. Support benefits, why decrease was the question. I can't answer that. Kim might be able to. But it's just, somebody was asking,
Change in
it's a
person.
decrease, so it's not an
a change in
increase.
personnel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maintenance and
Weird
repairs
ass.
was another R revisit, went down 2%. Need explanation. I think he's kind of
Yeah, and I
explained
looked
it.
at some of what
Property
we've
insurance, this was the actual cost.
Right.
There's nothing we can do about that particular one, except shop around, but I don't think we're gonna see as much change. 'Cause we get that through
And that's.
Maine School Management Association. Supplies, increase, just an increase over last year. Here's the big change, there's the heating oil thing that we talked about, that's the colored item. So on the next page, which is electricity, equipment, and ground tech services, were all ours. I guess the ground tech, Andy, might you just take a second to explain that quickly? The 18, the $1,000, I think it had to do with sports fields or.
Reduction of $1,000?
Yep.
Yeah, basically, some of the vendor has changed, and I've looked at kind of like historically what we've been spending to, you know, out of this line, and felt that reducing it by 1,000 was a good idea.
And that, would you review the line above that and why this is the year in terms of having the same piece of equipment for parts and all that stuff?
Yeah, the floor machine, we've replaced one, the other one is approximately a 2002 model, and I've been putting a lot of money into it maintenance-wise over the last couple of years. The last repair was like over $900, and it's time.
And tell me, you'll have two with.
We're gonna have two identical machines. They'll both be the same. Parts will be interchangeable. They're more versatile machines. We've got one that we've had for almost a year now, and it's proven that it's a good item. So.
Are you okay with that, folks? Yes. Because that was really the only major big increase in that whole area, my new item, if you will. Okay, we're on Article 12, food service.
I've scanned them, I don't have any questions on that.
Okay. I'll just say that we, just for the warrant finance, we have a contract with Sanford to help share that food service director, if you will. We will be looking into that again in another year, maybe a different arrangement. Okay? I think there's something there that can be addressed, it just wasn't able to do it this round. Okay? So that's all food service related. Anything there, committee people? The very last page, the 3-minute summary. This is we had a budget proposed as is, and now this is the budget proposed with the suggested changes that I made. The reason I wanted you to have the budget proposed as is, so you saw the items that people brought forth. In another year, because I'll have been here, I'll have already know a bunch of these things. Some of these things, we might go right to this proposal in the future, okay? Directly to a proposal that the superintendent and the administrator do as a group, okay? Or we might separate items, say these things should be considered. That's how we're going to process it this year, okay? So, if you look at this page, this back page, this assumes a budget in which the designated funds buckets exist. If you look there, the changes and everything, the pre-K program, instructional strategist, and all those other changes, comes out to a decrease of $87,000 from the as-is budget. Go to the bottom. It says here, decrease tuition by $110,000. If the designated funds pass, particularly that first item, there's $110,000 in the tuition line to cover the unexpected, because we just have to put it in there, because if that designated fund doesn't pass, we could be in deep doo-doo. If the designated fund pass, as soon as it passes, we can deduct another $110,000 from the overall budget and return back to the town through some avenue. Kim and I figured out how to do it. So the projected increase to the tax to this budget is 1.89%.
That's before some of the things we took out tonight.
That's before these changes that we added or took out. Now, if you want to revisit your supplies and make 10%, that may check. Now, she's been trying to calculate this right along.
Well, I want to make another change.
So where are we?
Sorry.
Wait a minute.
Where are we right now
Just a
with
minute,
what's
Kevin.
taken out?
Where are we right now with? what
Yes.
we said?
Right now, with 75% with all the substitutes,
Yep.
and 75% with all the budgets, and 5% increase in all the supplies, our net, if the buckets pass, would be 1.71% increase.
1.71?
Yeah. if we don't do the buckets and we're the column before that with a budget proposal, it'd be 3.87.
3.87?
The column before that.
What do you want to do?
So I had not realized, so the reason, and part of the R was to have the discussion in regards to historically, and I wasn't aware that it's been flat for so long. When I look at when I did the numbers, the actual amount of the supply lines is less than 0.3 of 1% of the budget. It's around, I think total was like $14,000, all supplies in the hands of kids. Given that it's been flat for so long, I say 50% increase is like $7,000. We're talking less than 2.2% of 1%. Less than 0.2 of 1% impact. It's negligible. But it sounds like it had a significant drop and has never been recuperated. 5%, I didn't realize that. So my proposal is actually 50%, just for this year to get it back to where it was.
Increase the supplies to 50%?
Just what they were last year, it's a 50% increase. Like a lot of them are $600, so it'll be $900.
Right.
Total, from the original, it's $14,700 that I added. So we're looking for just across all those 8 line items, 10 line items.
Just the teacher line.
Just the teacher supply line.
Teacher supply line.
Again,
it comes out to 14,000.
Just a second. Teacher supply line, play what if. Can you change, it's just a teacher supply line, there's only two lines.
No, there's multiple, there's like 7 or 8.
No, teacher supply. That's
Teacher
what I'm asking.
supplies.
There's other things that say supply.
Oh yeah, I didn't count those. I counted the ones that were just 0 with, because some of them are there's the ed tech ones. There was like resource room. There's some small ones.
Can I make this suggestion that we put a separate line in for that amount that you say, and that based on how we reconfigure the groupings next year, that money goes to the team as supplies for the team.
Okay.
So we're saying pre-K 3 has a
By cohort.
Pre-K 2 has a supply.
My increase was 7,500, so 2,500 per cohort.
25, 25, 25, and this, instead of to a person necessarily, but to a team.
Okay.
Collectively.
So I'm adding.
I don't know. That's what I'm proposing to the group. I don't know. I know that,
That makes sense.
percentage-wise is high, but
I personally would like to see us go that route long-term anyway.
So 25, 25, and 20.
As a team.
2,500 per cohort. K2, 3, 5, 6,
Even though we
8.
don't officially have cohorts established.
So
and
somewhere in
planned, but we
here,
will.
somewhere in here is the pre-K salary?
Yep.
Where? Can you tell me? Is it just the line 1? No?
Pre-K would be in
It's under
11,
teacher.
20.
Yeah, it's under the teacher.
Article what?
11, 20. So it's an article,
Page 2 on my printout.
and then
It
it's
says 42% increase, excuse me, 2%.
Right at the top, right
I
at
see
the
it,
top
yeah.
line. Yep.
Remember, there's position changes, decrease, there's the retirement, there's a bunch of factors that take place.
And we ended up saving at least 12,000 with that substitute lines,
Okay.
not including the other pieces. So it's more than
So
that.
where are we at, Kim?
Go back to 1.8 something.
We're gonna be like 1.8, 1.82.
Well, we can get that next time, right? Because that's what we're going to be voting on at our regular meeting a week from today.
We can, or we can continue the process if you
Well,
want.
No, that's it.
yeah, I think,
Gotta
See,
go home.
well,
Mike, would you just go up one for a second? Updates of where we go in summary sheet, overall budget, which is she's doing, I think there's one more there, Mike.
it'd be 1.86 with a designated, 4.01 without.
No. Okay. I was gonna ask it's in our agenda. Where do we go from here?
Guys, on the next page.
Yes, right here. How do we present this?
I'm just trying to keep us
These
to
are the items we have to do, not tonight.
Finalize is spelled wrong.
so,
It's the British way.
do we have, our next budget workshop is scheduled for
Tuesday.
the same as our monthly meeting.
That's correct.
Now,
Well,
the
we have to
Warren and
vote, really.
Finance have 2 nights that they could pick from, either the 17th or the 24th.
Well, they're all,
that
they're
we have
here,
to keep track.
so we can adjust now.
What do you mean?
Do we need
Two nights.
Do we need to make next Tuesday a budget meeting, or do you want to just push it off to, what did you say today?
They can,
No, we have to vote on our budget. They can do whatever they want with the budget.
Yeah, but we have to,
We have to vote at a regular meeting.
we do, and
Do that next week.
I don't know, I've been encouraged by the input from the Warrant and Finance Committee as we go along. A lot of times, everybody just kind of sits there and listens, and then afterwards comes
Bob
back
Strauss.
with, yeah. So it's been good to have the dialogue back and forth as we go through the process, so that you know the page we're on, and if you'd like to have more of that dialogue, we can do more of that dialogue on it at another meeting. If you have other things that you'd like to do input on.
Judy, can I suggest that the Warrant and Finance Committee is going to have a meeting next Monday,
Okay.
and we could discuss it and come back to you with our
Questions?
thoughts at that time. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
That's
Which
a
would
good
be
idea.
Tuesday?
Could you do that on
Well,
Tuesday?
we would get back to you whenever,
Tuesday
I
is
don't
our-
know.
Tuesday
Tuesday's
is our
our-
meeting.
We'll know
Next
on
meeting.
a meeting on Monday evening, and then all of a sudden, then the following evening, we get your.
It won't be a
another
tight
meeting.
report,
You know.
yes.
So why don't we plan on having a budget
Secretary?
meeting on Tuesday?
No, not yet.
I'm the secretary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a slow typist.
I just wanted to, we were talking about the language. I just want to remind the honorable lady that if we wanted to really be avant-garde and teach our children the language of the 21st century, which is Chinese, Mandarin, that the Chinese government gets teachers for you free of charge.
Yep, and they even cover the cost of living.
Doesn't cost
Hello?
anything.
Hey,
They have a
I'll be there in
program
just a
called
few
Confucius
minutes.
program that
Okay,
they send
hon?
teachers around the
All
world.
right.
And it wouldn't cost us anything, or very little.
Well, since they're learning English,
One
right?
other
Those little
thing
kids.
I think you should look into, if you decided you were gonna cut staff, I think you better check with your insurance company about having one person in the building. I think you'll find that would
that's
be
what you're talking
tough.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, but many schools do one.
Do we need to adjourn?
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn
So
until
moved.
next Tuesday.
Second.
Thank you all.
We're voting? Thank you.
So we vote on.
Did you put a time?
8:40.
We almost did it.